Chapter 45. Inner Yuan or the strength of Qin Yun's body shocked the group of old officials. They were also very envious. If he could really survive this 1 hour, then the old minister's plan would have failed. Is this the result of soaking in the celestial lion lake for 10 days? How he endured the 10 days of torture in the celestial lion lake. He will be able to endure it now. Ding Tianchun said in a low voice. His words caused many people to shiver. Everyone knew that Yan Qingyu, who was crazily ravaging Qin Yun on the stage, had also entered the celestial lion lake. However, he only lasted for a day before crawling out. He had almost died inside. And according to the rumors, Qin Yun walked out with Yang Shiryu as if nothing had happened. Yan Qingyu originally thought that he could quickly force Qin Yun to submit. He even believed that even if Qin Yun did not cultivate a demonic art, he would still admit it because he could not endure his torture. However, Qin Yun had no intention of surrendering. His face was filled with determination as he gritted his teeth and endured all sorts of pain. The most terrifying thing was that every time he was beaten into a pile of mud, he could stand up again. This unyielding will infected many people. I will never yield. Qin Yun roared in his heart and crawled up with great difficulty. Yan Qingyu was very angry. He looked at the Duke of Yen below the battling platform and saw the Duke of Yen nodding at him. This scene caused Yang Shiryu's nerves to tense up. Ding Tianchun and President Zhang were the same, and they also decided that no matter what, they absolutely could not let Qin Yun be destroyed here. After Yan Qingyu obtained approval, he could use all kinds of stronger methods to attack Qin Yun. At this moment, more than half of the hourglass had leaked out. After Qin Yun stood up, Yan Qingyu let out a loud roar. The sword energy condensed into a short sword. Inner strength. Someone shouted, and the crowd started to shout. The short sword condensed from the mist was inner strength. His powerful inner force could pierce through steel and crack iron, and crush mountains. Inner strength was a powerful form of power that could only be used at the 6th level of the martial body realm. Only by cultivating the 3 great scriptures would one be able to control inner strength. A short sword-like inner strength shot out and struck Qin Yun's abdomen. Just as Yang Shiryu was about to rush over, she saw Qin Yun's eyes, which were tightly wrinkled from the pain, emit a glimmer of light. This made her immediately stop. After the inner strength of the short sword struck Qin Yun's dantian, the inner strength was not blasted away by the vibrating inner yuan. Instead, it entered the vibrating inner yuan. The vibrating inner yuan absorbed this inner strength and began to vibrate violently. Qin Yun had thought that the vibration inner elemental energy was about to dissipate, but he never expected that the inner strength of the short sword would be absorbed by the vibration inner elemental energy. The vibration spread throughout his body and seeped into his bone marrow. He felt as if every part of his body was being torn apart. After being torn apart, the 2 inner elemental energies immediately released the 9 yang inner qi to quickly heal the injuries. The process was extremely painful, but Qin Yun was extremely excited. This was because he saw the 2 elemental energies in his dantian spinning rapidly, sometimes big and sometimes small. After contracting, they suddenly expanded, as if they were breathing. Inner yuan. Qin Yun was extremely excited. Only when he cultivated his inner force cultivation method to perfection would such a phenomenon occur. If it was a higher-level cultivation technique, he would be able to use his inner yuan and spiritual breath when he mastered it. The inner yuan spirit breath could allow one's inner yuan to breathe. When one breathed in and out, the inner yuan would spin rapidly, allowing one's inner yuan to be released or absorbed even more spiritual energy. It was said that some people were unable to use their inner yuan when they were at the 8th or even 9th level of the martial body realm. However, Qin Yun had already reached that level. Yan Qingyu came to Qin Yun's side and sneered, "You won't be able to stand up this time, right?" He stepped on Qin Yun's back. Qin Yun did not get up again. He was mainly shaking his inner yuan and constantly sending waves of inner strength to every part of his body to temper his flesh and bones. This was the key to the bone-forging scripture. "Tell me, did you cultivate a demonic art?" Yan Qingyu shouted coldly as he pressed. Yang Shiyu suddenly shouted, "If Qin Yun dies and you cannot prove that he cultivates a demonic art, I, Yang Shiyu, will make you pay with your blood even if I have to risk my life." Her ice-cold voice was accompanied by a bone-piercing killing intent that enveloped the entire martial arts practice field. Everyone could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. Our Hua Ling Wu Academy will definitely not let a student be forced to death like this. Since I have already stepped into the martial Dao realm, I will do my best to not let the person who persecuted the students leave alive. When Principal Zhang's light voice appeared, it caused everyone's body to tremble. What kind of strength was that in the martial Dao realm? None of the people present knew, but they knew that it was extremely terrifying. If Qin Yun were to die just like that, and there was no definite explanation for the cultivation of demonic arts, the Duke of Yen and the others would face quite a bit of pressure, such as Yang Shiyu and Principal Zhang. Especially Yang Shiyu. She had a cultivation at the 9th level martial body realm. If she were to fight with her life on the line, it would be extremely terrifying. Furthermore, she was a student from the Tianxian martial school. At this moment, Yan Qingyu was also facing quite a bit of pressure. Back then, the elders had told him that Qin Yun was either forced to use demonic arts or forced to admit that he cultivated demonic arts. However, the current Qin Yun was so stubborn. He did not use demonic arts, nor did he admit it. Yan Qingyu could not kill Qin Yun. Otherwise, none of his elders would be able to escape. If an hour passed and there was no proof that Qin Yun cultivated demonic arts, the Duke of Yen and the other old officials would have to kneel down and apologize to Qin Yun. Yan Qingyu gritted his teeth and released another wave of inner strength. A short sword-like inner strength entered Qin Yun's body from his back. This time, it was the same as before. The inner strength was absorbed by the vibration and then released to every part of his body to temper his muscles and bones. Qin Yun was also clear about the current situation. Yan Qingyu did not dare to kill him. Otherwise, more than half of the people here would be buried with him. Even Master Wei might not be able to escape. Yang Shiyu and Principal Zhang's cold killing intent enveloped the martial arts practice field. It was as if the moment Qin Yun died, they would kill until rivers of blood flowed. This oppressive atmosphere made it difficult for many people to breathe. In the dark night, the stars and moon were obscured by the thick clouds, making it even darker. In the martial arts practice field of the Hua Ling Wu Academy, no one had eaten or eaten. Their backs were drenched in cold sweat as they stared at the sand in the hourglass. On the battling platform, Yan Qingyu would occasionally strike Qin Yun with his inner strength. However, Qin Yun refused to admit that he cultivated demonic art. Furthermore, he did not use demonic arts to counterattack, nor did he faint. He endured the pain. An hour was about to pass. If Qin Yun could endure it, the Duke of Yen and the group of old officials would have to kneel down and admit their wrongs. This was kneeling in front of thousands of people. Although the Duke of Yen and the group of treacherous officials were scheming, they did not expect Qin Yun to have such tenacious willpower. This was because it was something they did not have, so they were naturally overlooked. In the past, no matter how stubborn the people who fell into their hands were, they would be tortured and forced to confess. But now, this trick was no longer effective. Qin Yun's arduous cultivation for the past 5 years had allowed him to train the most lacking willpower and strong faith among the nobles. His vibrating inner yuan was breathing, constantly releasing inner force to flow through his entire body. Unknowingly, faint golden threads had condensed, as if they were connecting all the bones in his body. Chapter 46. Admit one's mistake. Qin Yun could sense that his inner force was flowing through the bone meridian. It could easily enter his bone marrow, filling his bones with even more strength and allowing him to withstand even stronger impacts. The bones were the framework of the body. If the bones were strong, the flesh and blood would be strong. The 5 viscera and 6 bowels would be strengthened as well, and one would be able to cultivate a powerful physique. The bone meridian is indeed powerful. It's like the meridians of elemental energy. It can affect all the meridians in the body and quickly transport elemental energy to the entire body. Through the bone meridian, Qin Yun quickly circulated the 2 powerful 9-yang inner qi throughout his body. The bone meridians were completely condensed and linked together. The insides of the bones were exploding with crackling sounds. It was as if Qin Yun had been reborn. The pain he had just suffered had completely disappeared in an instant. Abundant inner force instantly filled his entire body. Yan Qingyu sent out another wave of inner force that turned into a sword. This time, Qin Yun moved. He rolled on the ground to avoid the inner force. The inner force landed on the ground, shattering the hard stone slabs. In the blink of an eye, Qin Yun leaped up and used his hands as blades to execute the wind slasher style. Now, he could use his inner force to execute the wind slasher incantation. This meant that he had learned the wind slasher technique to the initial realm. Spirit level upper grade martial arts, initial mastery was no small matter, its power was extremely terrifying. Yan Qingyu never expected that Qin Yun, who had been tortured half to death by him, would suddenly jump up violently. Furthermore, he had ravaged Qin Yun for nearly an hour. His body had consumed a lot of energy. After all, Yan Qingyu was from the Ling Xian Wu Academy. He reacted extremely quickly when encountering a sudden situation. He immediately circulated his remaining inner qi to block. He crossed his hands and his inner force surged out, forming a shield that blocked Qin Yun's 2 hand blades. Qin Yun chopped down with both hands as a shockwave of inner force surged out, propelling a scorching flame inner force. When he chopped down with both hands, it was like 2 giant sabers carrying a vast and mighty force, falling down with the force to split mountains and split the earth. Their hands, one attacking and one defending, collided at an extremely fast speed. Boom! Sparks burst out and flames shot out. The vibrating inner force released by Qin Yun dispersed the inner force on Yan Qingyu's arms. The vibrating power, along with the flame inner qi, surged into Yan Qingyu's body like a wave. Yan Qingyu's arms flailed wildly as he screamed in agony. Everything happened too quickly, and everyone was dumbfounded. No one expected that Qin Yun would suddenly rise from the dead and jump up to attack Yan Qingyu. Master Wei, quickly remove the formation. The Duke of Yan wanted to jump onto the battling platform but was stopped by the formation. It had to be said that the formation set up by Master Wei was truly sturdy. The Duke of Yan was at the 9th level martial body realm, yet he was unable to shake it in the slightest. It could be seen that Master Wei had put in a lot of effort to set up this formation. It was to prevent Qin Yun from being rescued at the critical moment. Just as Master Wei was about to remove the array formation in a panic, a whooshing sound suddenly came from the battling platform. Qin Yun's hands overflowed with flaming inner force. It was like a sharp blade as he executed a terrifying saber technique. What was even more terrifying was that the invisible vibrating internal energy in his flesh and bones could shake off all defenses. Shwa shwa shwa. Qin Yun attacked with both his sabers. Wind slasher, wave breaker, mountain splitter, lightning bolt, a terrifying saber aura, chaotic and overbearing, enveloped Yan Qingyu's body. In just 4 moves, the meridians in Yan Qingyu's body had been shattered by the saber aura. Many shocking down marks appeared on the surface of his body. In a short instant, Yan Qingyu's flesh and blood were badly mutilated by Qin Yun's saber. At this moment, the sand in the hourglass had completely leaked out and the formation was automatically undone. The martial arts practice field was silent. The corners of the Duke of Yan's eyes and the muscles on his old face twitched violently. The most outstanding disciple of the Yan family had been defeated so miserably in front of him. Yang Shiyu had already leaped up and landed beside Qin Yun. Only she knew that Qin Yun had cultivated the bone scripture. That was why he was able to instantly unleash such terrifying power. "Brother Qingyu!" Yan Yun cried out miserably and fainted. As for the Yan family's woman, she burst into tears. Qin Yun sneered. Just now, he had been tortured to a miserable state. As for these people, they were all beaming with joy as they drank and chatted merrily. After the Duke of Yan jumped up to check on Yan Qingyu's injuries, he pointed at Qin Yun. His voice and hands trembled violently. "Qin Yun, you." He was so sad and angry that he couldn't speak. Anger constantly surged out from his trembling body, setting off gusts of wind. This was because Yan Qingyu's elemental energy was gone. Yang Shiyu's face was as cold as ice as she stood in front of Qin Yun. She said coldly, "Everyone has already seen that Qin Yun did not use demonic arts. He used flame inner chi and wind slasher incantation. Of course, his wind slasher incantation has already reached the initial stage, and he has already condensed inner force. 5th level martial body, condensing inner force, initial success of wind slasher incantation. Even a martial artist at the 6th level martial body would find it difficult to withstand." Wei Xuanquan was also alarmed by Qin Yun's terrifying talent. He asked involuntarily, why was he able to condense inner force in such a short period of time, 10 days for the Celestial Lion Lake and 10 days for the 9 Yang Spirit Convergence Array? If it were you, would you dare to say that you wouldn't be able to condense it? President Zhang said with a sneer, "Qin Yun's martial talent is not bad, but there are many more terrifying than him. For example, Xiao Yuelan of the Tian Shao Empire. She is only 16 years old, but she is already at the 8th level martial body realm. Could it be that she is also cultivating a demonic art?" Xiao Yuelan was actually at the 8th level martial body realm. Not only the youths, even many of the old officials and teachers were shocked. Their faces were filled with disbelief. A 16-year-old girl with a cultivation at the 8th level martial body realm was even higher than many of the teachers and old officials here. This was truly shocking. From the looks of it, Qin Yun was nothing compared to Xiao Yuelan. A few elders from the Yan family went up to check on Yan Qingyu's injuries and shook their heads in despair. He was already crippled. Whether or not he could wake up was one thing, even though he was still alive. The Duke of Yan watched as Yan Qingyu was carried away. He walked down and sat down on a chair. He was so grief-stricken that he nearly vomited blood. Although the other old officials' faces were filled with grief, they were secretly delighted in their hearts. The genius disciples of other families were destroyed. This was something they loved to see. After all, who didn't want the other powers to be stronger? Furthermore, at this moment, the Duke of Yan was stepping on their heads and flaunting his prowess. He often boasted about how amazing Yan Qingyu was. "All of you, come up now and kneel down and admit your wrongs to Qin Yun." Yang Shiryu suddenly shouted angrily, causing everyone to tremble. Everyone suddenly recalled what the Duke of Yan and the others had promised them. Master Wei sighed and walked up to the stage. He said in a clear voice, "A gentleman's words cannot be retracted. From the test just now, Qin Yun did not cultivate any demonic arts. Furthermore, he had cultivated the bone scripture. He was a rare martial arts genius. Since that's the case, everyone should abide by their previous promise and do as they say. After all, everyone is a highly respected minister of the country." Just as everyone thought that Master Wei was about to kneel down and admit his wrongs to Qin Yun, they heard him laugh heartily and say, "Everyone, Qin Yun is the son of the Heavenly Emperor. As his subjects, it's normal for you to kneel down to him. This is nothing to you, it's just a matter of admitting your wrongs. Furthermore, he was tortured just now. Chapter 47. Martial spirit bestowed by the Heaven's Master Wei's ability to sail with the wind could be said to be at the pinnacle of perfection, causing all the ministers present to feel displeased. At this moment, the Duke of Yan's mood was the most wonderful. His outstanding grandson had been destroyed, and now he had to kneel down and admit his wrongs to Qin Yun, who had destroyed his grandson. This was what it meant to lift a rock and smash one's own foot. Not only did it smash his foot, it even smashed his own head. The Duke of Yan had lived for a long time and was someone who had seen the wind and wave. After calming down the grief and anger in his heart, he slowly said, "We can now be sure that Qin Yun did not cultivate demonic arts, but that does not mean that he is not at fault. Back then, the Grand Preceptor cultivated a forbidden demonic art because he allowed it to happen. Yan Qingyu had already been destroyed. If he knelt to Qin Yun again, he, the Duke of Yan, would become a laughingstock in the heavenly Qin kingdom once word of this got out. No matter what, he could not kneel to Qin Yun and admit his wrongs. When Qin Yun saw the attitude of the Duke of Yan and the group of old officials, he said angrily and coldly, "In that case, it is natural for you to cripple my spirit vein because I cultivate demonic arts?" When the Duke of Yan saw that his previous words had angered Qin Yun, he could not help but feel pleased. He continued to use a mocking tone as he said, "We took away your spirit vein to punish you for allowing the Grand Preceptor to cultivate demonic arts. What's wrong with that? Fortunately, your spirit vein was successfully fused with the Crown Prince, allowing him to become a rare genius with 6 meridians. If he can become the strongest emperor of my Tian Qin kingdom in the future, it can be considered as making up for it." Qin Yun was infuriated by these words. The flame inner qi in his body surged out as he clenched his fist. Flames flickered as his anger surged. When the Duke of Yan saw this, he raised his head slightly with a sneer on his face, revealing an expression that said, "What can you do to me?" When Yang Shiyu saw this scene and felt Qin Yun's anger, she was also infuriated. Her expression was incomparably cold as she said coldly, "No matter what, all of you must kneel down and admit your wrongs to Qin Yun today. You must do what you promised me. I don't care what mistakes he made before." Her voice was filled with killing intent. The Duke of Yan had enough. In order to prevent others from thinking that he was afraid of a little girl, he sneered angrily, "I won't kneel. What can you do to me? Do you think you can kill us?" Although our Yan clan does not have anyone who has stepped into the martial Dao realm, there are still a few at the 9th level martial body realm. It was true that Yang Shiyu was at the 9th level martial body realm, but among the ministers here, there were also several at the 9th level martial body realm. They had been on the battlefield for a long time and had killed countless people. In terms of combat experience, they were definitely richer than a 20-year-old girl like Yang Shiyu. Duke Yan looked at the old officials and a few teachers around him. He immediately felt a lot more at ease. They were all his people. He couldn't help but raise his head arrogantly and continued, "I'd like to see what you can do to us if we don't kneel and admit our mistakes." Now, they were just not fulfilling their promise. They had done this kind of thing many times before. If they really knelt down and admitted their wrongs to Qin Yun, that would be truly humiliating. Suddenly, Yang Shiyu's tall and slender body trembled, overflowing with silver light like a cold moon. A cold, icy wind whistled over. Her white dress fluttered, her long hair danced in the wind, and her graceful figure was bathed in the cold moonlight. She looked noble and holy, like a proud and aloof silver moon in the night, sacred and inviolable. "If you don't kneel down and admit your wrongs to Qin Yun, I won't kill you. However, I guarantee that you will crawl out of the Hualing Wu Academy tonight." Her voice seemed to come from the depths of the 9 hells, causing everyone to feel a chill of fear. Qin Yun was standing beside Yang Shiyu. When he saw this scene, he was also alarmed. His hidden vibration martial spirit trembled even more violently, as if it was infected by Yang Shiyu's state. It wasn't just him. Everyone present, as long as they possessed a martial spirit, was trembling in fear. The faces of Duke Yen and the others were even paler. They were intimidated by Yang Shiyu's aura. Crash! Yang Shiyu's jade-like body suddenly flashed with a blinding silver light. A bone-piercing cold wave fused with the silver light. Like countless silver ice crystals, they howled out and swept in all directions. When everyone opened their stinging eyes, they suddenly discovered that there was a bright moon hanging above Yang Shiyu's head. The silver glow of the bright moon lingered, filled with a divine aura. This was released by Yang Shiyu. Although it wasn't big, it was enough to illuminate the entire Hualing Wu Academy. Everyone was frightened out of their wit. They were tongue-tied and their faces were filled with fear. At the same time that they were shocked, their bodies felt as if they were in an icy pond. The moonlight was very beautiful, but it was also very cold. Just like the current Yang Shiryu, she had a peerless beauty that could topple a city. She was as elegant and refined as a fairy from the heavens, and her cold and arrogant aura was natural. Only the old martial artists could tell that this was Yang Shiryu's martial spirit, Moon Martial Spirit. The Moon Martial Spirit was recognized as one of the strongest martial spirit. It was said that the only thing stronger than the Moon Martial Spirit was the Sun Martial Spirit. These martial spirits were all stronger than legendary martial spirits, and were known as martial spirits bestowed by the heavens. The moon had the power to activate the tides. At this moment, Yang Shiryu was using the power of the Moon Martial Spirit to affect other people's martial spirits, causing them to surge like a tide. This was only one of the mysterious powers of the Moon Martial Spirit. "Are you going to kneel or not?" Yang Shiryu's cold voice condensed into an ice-cold, killing intent that enveloped them. The Duke of Yen and the others were so intimidated that their bodies trembled as they walked towards the battling platform with trembling legs. Previously, Yang Shiryu had said that she would tell Qin Yun what his martial spirit was when he had sufficient strength. Now, Qin Yun finally saw the martial spirit that Yang Shiryu possessed. He was extremely shocked. After Yang Shiryu released her Moon Martial Spirit, she could feel the martial spirits of others. Right now, she could clearly sense that there were two extremely strong martial spirits jumping behind her. There was only Qin Yun behind her. However, she knew very well that Qin Yun had a purple-gold fire martial spirit. Therefore, she was surprised to discover that Qin Yun had an even stronger martial spirit in his body. She suddenly thought of dual martial spirits. The Duke of Yen and the others all walked over in fear. Yang Shiryu also withdrew her Moon Martial Spirit. Everyone immediately felt much more relaxed, but their hearts were still thumping. They were still trapped in the state of fear and shock. The Duke of Yen and dozens of old generals knelt in front of Qin Yun and kowtowed a few times. They were also apologizing. Qin Yun looked at the Duke of Yen and temporarily vented his anger. He had suffered internal injuries just now and had been enduring it. However, because of the Moon Martial Spirit, he suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood. This mouthful of blood sprayed onto the Duke of Yan's face, causing everyone to be alarmed. They all felt that Qin Yun had done it on purpose. The Duke of Yen was so angry that his entire body was trembling, but he did not dare to say another word, because they were not Yang Shiryu's match. When everyone saw the Duke of Yan's face covered in blood from Qin Yun's spit, they wanted to laugh but they did not dare. They could only resist the urge to laugh. Seeing that this matter was almost over, Master Wei said, "Principal, your Hualing Wu Academy is truly an eye-opener. Both the students and the teachers are talented. I would like to ask, in the Hualing Wu Academy, teachers can't provide property to students, right? Everyone has seen Teacher Yang's strength. Although I don't know why she came here to be a teacher, she must be very rich." Qin Yun did not cultivate any demonic arts and only had one spirit vein. Yet, he was able to make such a huge improvement in such a short period of time. This makes one wonder if Teacher Yang is providing him with rich resources to cultivate? Principal, please make the Hua Ling Wu Academy fairer. Otherwise, during the competition, the resources will be snatched away by Qin Yun. If the Martial Arts Academy ignores it, it will damage the reputation of the Martial Arts Academy and the future of all the students. Chapter 48. Talisman Making. Principal Zhang nodded and said, "This is indeed the rule of the Hua Ling Wu Academy. Once it is violated, both teachers and students will be expelled from the academy." Yang Shiyu was a principled person. Master Wei could tell this, so he dared to bring this matter up. The other teachers who were familiar with the ministers all stood up one after another, insisting that Yang Shiyu had provided Qin Yun with abundant resources. Many students also thought so. In particular, the new students also voiced out their dissatisfaction with this matter. This was because as long as it was a competition, Qin Yun would snatch away the resources. Therefore, chasing Qin Yun out of the Hua Ling Wu Academy would be of great benefit to them. As for the older students at the 5th level martial body realm, they also felt that Qin Yun was a threat to them. For example, at the Heavenly Lion martial meet, they, the older students, had been mocked. The Duke of Yen and the others were secretly happy to see that Master Wei was not letting go of this matter. If Yang Shiyu and Qin Yun were to be chased out of the Hua Ling Wu Academy because of this, it would be a relief. Yang Shiyu said coldly, "I've never provided Qin Yun with cultivation resources. He's the only one in my class. Therefore, most of the time, I've been guiding him in his cultivation and imparting all sorts of martial arts knowledge to him. That's all. Even if we are willing to believe you, the others may not necessarily believe you." Master Wei shook his head and sighed. "If there is no strong proof, how can you make everyone believe your side of the story?" Yang Shiyu's expression suddenly turned cold. She did not know how to prove it because she could not understand how Qin Yun, who only had one spirit vein, could improve so quickly. She had only just found out that Qin Yun had a martial spirit in his body. She could not reveal this matter. Just as Yang Shiyu was in a dilemma, Qin Yun said calmly, "I know how to craft talismans. My cultivation resources were all exchanged for by secretly selling talismans." "How is this possible?" Master Wei laughed. "Kuiner has been learning spirit runes from me since he was young, and he only knew how to craft talismans this year. Yet you suddenly know how to craft talismans? This is simply wishful thinking." Everyone was taken aback by Qin Yun's words. However, when they heard Master Wei's words, they found it laughable. Wei Xuanquan laughed loudly and said, "My innate talent in inscriptions isn't bad. It took me such a long time to learn, but you? Humph, who taught you how to craft talismans? Even Teacher Yang wouldn't do it. I'll make a talisman on the spot to show you." Master Wei is an inscription master and the masters of the inscription palace are also here. They will definitely be able to identify it. Qin Yun's expression was calm as he smiled faintly. "My inscription technique was taught to me by the Grand Preceptor. I've been learning from her since I was young. It's just that everyone doesn't know about it. If she hadn't been murdered by a group of bastards, I might have been able to refine spirit tools by now." Everyone was in an uproar. It was actually taught by that female devil, Grand Preceptor. Actually, many people understood why the Grand Tutor cultivated demonic art. Because after this incident, the Empress and her people were the ones who benefited the most. It is not wrong for Qin Yun to say that his runes were imparted to him by the Grand Preceptor because he obtained them from the Nine Yang Divine Spirit. No one knew that the Grand Preceptor understood inscriptions. They only knew that her medical skills were brilliant. Back then, Yuan Yenying's illness was very strange. She was the one who cured it. Furthermore, she had even prescribed a few prescriptions and publicized them, curing many difficult and complicated illnesses. "I don't believe it," Wei Xuanquan shouted loudly. Use my talisman paper and inscription brush to craft talismans. If you can really refine them, You don't have to promise anything, lest you end up like the last time with the blue sword. And now, Yen Yun has also fainted. Qin Yun chuckled as his voice was filled with ridicule. Even if she doesn't faint, she can't ask me for anything back. Wei Xuanquan was so angry that he didn't know how to respond. Qin Yun looked so confident that he seemed to be able to craft talismans. However, many people still did not believe him. After all, it was not a simple matter to enter the inscription realm. Master Wei walked onto the battling platform and took out an exquisite and small golden carving knife. He said, "If you can successfully create a talisman, I will give this carving knife to you. This is a mid-grade spirit artifact." This carving knife was many times better than the one Qin Yun was currently using. It made him secretly excited. If you can't succeed, then it can prove that Teacher Yang is secretly helping you. Since you have broken the rules of the Hua Ling Wu Academy, then you should leave the Hua Ling Wu Academy. Master Wei sighed. Also, there's no need to give you the 100,000 crystal coins that the Duke of Yen owes you. Sure. Qin Yun agreed readily. Wei Xuanquan was a little anxious. However, when he saw how indifferent his father was, he felt relieved. Use my talisman paper and brush. Master Wei took out a stack of talisman paper and a tattered brush. Qin Yun said, I only use a carving knife to create talismans. Please give me a carving knife. Using a carving knife to create talismans required a certain level of skill. His request made Wei Xuanquan sneer. However, Master Wei still took out an old carving knife and handed it over. Yang Sure you felt that there must be something fishy going on. Just as she was about to say something, she saw a person walk onto the battling platform. This person was an old man in a white robe. He had white hair and a ruddy face. His white beard reached his chest and his eyebrows were benevolent. After he came up, he chuckled and said, I am the General Director of the Divine Inscription Palace, Duanqian. The Divine Inscription Palace in this area of the Tianqin Empire is under this old man's control. As for this appraisal, let this old man be in charge. Chapter 49. Elementary Talisman. Master Duanqian took out a talisman paper and a carving knife from his storage spirit artifact and handed them to Qin Yun. He said with a smile, Young man, if you can really craft talismans, then you're a beginner talisman master. Only when you can create low-grade spirit talismans, low-grade spirit artifacts, and set up spirit arrays can you become a beginner-level inscription master. Yang Sure you felt a lot more at ease now because Duanqian was very interested in Qin Yun and had no ill intentions. If the Divine Inscription Palace could absorb outstanding talents, it would also increase the strength of the Divine Inscription Palace. The Divine Inscription Palace was spread throughout the 3 empires and several other countries. It was not afraid of the imperial power of the empire and was a very mysterious existence. There weren't many people who knew Duanqian, but they knew that he wasn't simple. After all, he was the general director of the Tianqin Divine Inscription Palace. He was definitely very powerful. It could be seen from Master Wei's respectful attitude towards him. You can start now. With us old fellows here, don't even think about playing any trick. Duanqian stroked his beard and laughed. Qin Yun calmed himself down. Although he still had some internal injuries, it did not affect his talisman crafting. Now that he had cultivated the bone scripture, he could condense the blood-soul power more smoothly and quickly. He gripped the carving knife tightly and found that it was much better than the one he had. This was a spirit-grade carving knife. After Qin Yun condensed blood-soul power, he could easily infuse it into the carving knife. At this moment, a very strange feeling appeared, as if the carving knife was a part of his body, connected to his flesh and blood. He secretly exclaimed in his heart, maybe it's because of the carving knife. It seems like a good carving knife can get twice the result with half the effort when carving. Suddenly, a bright red spot of light appeared on the tip of the carving knife, causing all the seniors to exclaim in surprise. As long as one had a slight understanding of inscriptions, they would know that this was the power of the blood soul. Once he could condense the power of the blood soul, it meant that he was half a step into the Tao of inscription. Wei Xuanquan's face was filled with disbelief, because even he could not do it to this extent. He could only condense the loose power of the blood soul on the tip of the brush to draw talismans. Qin Yun began slashing down with his saber. The saber's shaft released a screen of light that enveloped his hand and the talisman on the table. When drawing the dark runes, it was necessary to cover them up to prevent others from stealing the precious spirit runes. His movements looked very skillful and had a certain level of mastery. One look and one could tell that he drew frequently. Wei Xuanquan felt very upset when he saw this. Master Wei's forehead was already sweating. Previously, Wei Xuanquan had said that he had focused all his energy on learning the Tao of inscriptions and was not good at fighting. That was why he had lost to Qin Yun in the martial arts competition. At present, in terms of the Tao of inscription, he was far inferior to Qin Yun. He was completely defeated. A moment later, Qin Yun put away the light screen. Although the paper talisman was blank, it was covered with a faint layer of blood soul power. The dark lines had been completed. Next, he was going to start drawing inscriptions. What he drew was a fire talisman, which was also the one he was most familiar with. The carving knife moved like dragons and snakes on the talisman paper, drawing complicated flame patterns. The tip of the knife was smooth and natural, flowing on the talisman paper like moving clouds and flowing water. Duan Qian and Master Wei could not help but widen their eyes in surprise when they saw this kind of foundation. After the bright lines were drawn, the talisman moved slightly, stirring up a faint heat. The blood-colored patterns flickered with a bright red light, and the mysterious flame patterns on it looked as if they were pulsating, giving off a feeling of heat. "This is a fire talisman, I've made it." Qin Yun handed the fire talisman to the astonished Duan Qian. Duan Qian stared blankly at Qin Yun for a long time before he regained his senses. "This fire talisman is very powerful. It's the strongest low-grade fire spirit talisman I've ever seen." Duan Qian exclaimed, "You are a qualified beginner talisman master. Your spirit inscriptions are very strong. Who taught you?" "My grand preceptor." Qin Yun sighed softly. Qin Yun could really craft talismans. The students were shocked as they discussed in shock, causing the martial arts practice field to be in an uproar. A 15-year-old at the 5th level of the martial body realm and a beginner talisman master. With such talent, only Xiao Yuelan of the Tian Shao Empire could compare to him. However, the Tian Shao Empire had cancelled the engagement between Xiao Yuelan and Qin Yun and changed it to a grand engagement with the new crown prince of Tianqin. At that time, there would be a grand engagement ceremony. The faces of the Duke of Yen and the other ministers were ashen. They knew what this meant. If Qin Yun could craft talismans, he would definitely be valued. The Divine Inscription Palace would definitely support him in secret. "Master Wei, do you mean what you said before?" Yang Shiyu asked coldly. Master Wei had said that he would give his carving knife to Qin Yun. "Of course it counts. Such an outstanding young elite will definitely be able to bring glory to my carving knife. Qin Yun, you must take good care of this saber." Master Wei laughed heartily, as if he was sincerely giving it to Qin Yun. However, in his heart, he cursed Qin Yun with many vulgarities. Wei Xuanquan gritted his teeth as he watched, as if he was about to shatter them. Even in his dreams, he had fallen into Qin Yun's hands. After Qin Yun took the carving knife, he gave it a try and realized that it was difficult for him to inject the power of his blood soul into it. He hurriedly asked, "Is there a special use for it? Why can't I use it?" "Let me see." Master Wei hurriedly took it and revealed a slightly angry expression. Qin Yun, what's wrong with you? You destroyed it the moment you obtained it. What are your intentions? This carving knife has been with me for many years. You actually, intentionally destroyed it. Qin Yun and Yang Shi you could not help but look at each other as they praised the old fox's methods. It was obvious that the carving knife had been secretly destroyed when Master Wei handed it over. As Qin Yun had previously destroyed the Kuan Blue Sword, everyone would definitely believe it without a doubt. There were already many voices of criticism below. In addition, after Master Wei destroyed the carving knife, Qin Yun could not use this precious carving knife. He did not want to see Qin Yun advance by leaps and bounds in the Tao of inscriptions because of this carving knife. Let this old man see. Duan Qian smiled and extended his hand. Master Wei cursed Duan Qian in his heart. Previously, it was because Duan Qian had suddenly jumped up and ruined his plans. Otherwise, Qin Yun would not have been able to successfully create a talisman with a little trick. He could only smile and hand the damaged carving knife to Duan Qian. It was indeed damaged just now, but it wasn't done on purpose by Qin Yun. When he used it, he did not use the power of his blood soul to nourish it. That's why it was damaged. Duan Qian said to Qin Yun with a smile, Qin Yun, why don't we do this? This old man will give you another carving knife. Leave this broken one to this old man to repair. How about it? Qin Yun never expected that Duan Qian would once again ruin Master Wei's plans and help him. He hurriedly said, then I'll be troubling the general director. Duan Qian took out a carving knife and handed it to Qin Yun. He said with a smile, this is a low-grade spirit artifact and it's new. Thank you, General Director. Qin Yun hurriedly thanked him after receiving it. Chapter 50. Senior, please behave yourself. The smile on Master Wei's face was somewhat stiff. Tonight was mainly a celebration for his son, and then he would deal with Qin Yun in passing. However, he never expected that it would cause Qin Yun's reputation to soar. Furthermore, he suffered a huge loss. It wouldn't be long before news of tonight's matter would spread throughout the entire Tianqin Empire, and the surrounding countries would also know about it. As for Master Wei and Wei Xuanquan, they would definitely be laughed at. Of course, Duke Yan was the most pitiful. He had destroyed a very outstanding grandson. However, this was a good thing for many nobles. After the banquet ended, Yang Shi pulled Qin Yun away. She wanted to quickly ask Qin Yun about his other martial soul. Your Highness, what should we do? Qin Yun has cultivated the bone scripture and can craft talismans. He has become a beginner talisman master and is under the care of the general director of the Divine Inscription Palace. A eunuch's face was filled with anxiety as he said, Yan Qingyu has also been crippled. That little bastard Qin Yun actually stirred up such a huge storm. The Empress sneered and said, so what if Yan Qingyu is crippled? I heard that his relationship with the Crown Prince isn't good. We don't have to worry about Qin Yun now. As long as father steps into the martial Tao realm, the entire Tianqin Empire will be ours. At that time, we will find an opportunity to deal with Qin Yun. The most important thing right now is to facilitate the marriage between the Crown Prince and Xiao Yuelan. The national father-in-law is about to break through? The old eunuch was pleasantly surprised. Soon. The Empress smiled complacently. Her eyes were filled with malice as she said in a deep voice, Qin Yun, just you wait. Qin Yun obtained 100,000 crystal coins as compensation from the Duke of Yen and was hurriedly brought back by Yang Shi. It was already late at night when they returned to the small house. Qin Yun's eyes were filled with shock as he said, Teacher, your moon martial spirit is really powerful. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have exposed myself. Yang Shi wrinkled her beautiful nose and snorted, on the other hand, you brat, you actually have another martial spirit. The corner of Qin Yun's eyes twitched. He never expected that his secret would be discovered. Is that so? Yang Shiryu pouted and poked Qin Yun's waist, causing him to jump up. I didn't mean to hide it from you. Qin Yun looked aggrieved. It's mainly because that martial spirit is too strange. I'm worried that it will have a bad effect. Yang Shiryu took out the spirit pagoda and winked at him to let him test it. After Qin Yun placed his hand on the spirit pagoda, he activated the power of the vibration martial spirit and injected it into the spirit pagoda. The spirit pagoda suddenly turned black and shook violently. Black. A black martial spirit. Yang Shiryu was stunned. She stared at the pure black spirit pagoda for a long while before coming back to her senses. I discovered it when I awakened my martial spirit. Because it was black, I was worried that I would be mistaken for an evil spirit or something, so I hid it. Qin Yun confessed truthfully. He really had this concern. He really has 2 martial souls, and it's the highest grade, the most mysterious black martial soul. Yang Shiryu's face was filled with joy as she said with a smile, "It has a very strong vibration power. This is the vibration martial spirit, it belongs to the legendary level. I will keep this a secret for you." Qin Yun heaved a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as it wasn't an evil martial spirit. He asked, "Teacher, is a black vibration martial spirit very rare?" Yang Shiryu put away the spirit pagoda and said, "The black martial spirit and the vibration martial spirit are both extremely rare. With both of them together, it's even rarer. When you go to the Star Xian Wu Academy in the future, you might be able to understand this kind of martial spirit better. Can't the Tianxian Martial School do? I want to be with you," Qin Yun said in a low voice. "If you can go to any martial arts academy, then so be it. Improving yourself is the most important thing," Yang Shiryu said with a slightly serious expression. Then, she asked about the situation of the vibration martial spirit. After listening to Qin Yun's explanation, she even took out a booklet to record it down. It seemed to be a very important matter. Since you can achieve the inner Yuan spirit aura, it means that you have cultivated the black yang tactic to the great perfection stage. It seems that you have a chance of reaching the acme of perfection. Yang Shiryu was secretly looking forward to this moment. She seemed to have gained a lot today. She took the notes and hurried back to her room. Qin Yun was also very tired today. When he returned to his room, he fell asleep. In the morning, Qin Yun woke up and took a shower. He changed into a blue tight suit and went to the hall. He saw a note left behind by Yang Shiryu on the table. It said that the principal had gone to look for her and would take a few days to return. The Hualing Wu Academy had always been managed by the vice principal, Principal Zhang. The principal rarely appeared. Qin Yun was worried that Yang Shiryu would be transferred away. He thought to himself, "I'll go to the Divine Inscription Palace first. I hope that teacher can accompany me through this semester." Duan Qian had previously said that he should make a trip to the Divine Inscription Palace to receive the badge of a beginner symbol master. This would be much more convenient. The Divine Inscription Palace was in the Imperial City. Qin Yun set off early in the morning and left the Hualing Wu Academy on his way to the Imperial City. It was more than 200 kilometers from the Hualing Wu Academy to the Imperial City. For a martial artist who could use movement techniques, this was not too far. Qin Yun had only casually run for less than an hour and had already traveled more than half the distance. This was the first time he had traveled alone. The Empress wouldn't dare to deal with me now, right? He had been very vigilant along the way, but he did not encounter any assassins. Qin Yun had been running through the forest. He did not take the main road to avoid encountering others on the road. In the forest, a cool breeze blew. It was extremely calm. Qin Yun ran and stopped along the way, admiring the beautiful flowers. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept over, causing the branches and leaves of a large area to tremble. His expression changed slightly. "There's someone fighting." "Forget it, mind your own business. I'll take a detour." Just as he was about to move, A few black-clothed men appeared with a schwa 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 sound. So strong, could they all be at the 6th level of the martial body realm? Qin Yun was alarmed, but he was not afraid. He was already prepared for battle. Stop, it's just a passerby. The one who spoke was a woman. When the woman came over, she carried a fragrance with her. She was wearing black tights, dressed like an assassin. Her oval face was very beautiful, her eyebrows were like smoke, and her eyes were filled with charm. She looked very mature, especially her plump and tall figure. Under the tight clothes, it was even more captivating. Young master, maybe this person has already discovered what we were doing. If he were to tell us, we will be in trouble. A man in black said. The woman did not mind at all. She lifted her long hair and looked extremely charming. She smiled sweetly at Qin Yun and said, "Little brother, are you a student of the Hua Ling Wu Academy?" "That's right," Qin Yun answered. The woman's alluring appearance caused his heart to tremble. What was shocking was that the sword in the woman's hand was dripping with blood. The woman was a head taller than him and looked to be 17 or 18 years old. Because she had just taken off her hood, her long black hair was a little messy. She held a sword dripping with blood in her hand and had a coquettish smile on her face. There was a hint of coldness and heroism in her charm. "I'm also from the Hua Ling Wu Academy, quickly call me senior." The woman smiled and reached out to pinch Qin Yun's face. She said with a chuckle, "What a handsome youth. His body is also very sturdy. Let big sister touch him." Qin Yun never expected this woman to be from the Hua Ling Wu Academy as well. Furthermore, she was very bold and unrestrained. She had already reached her hand into his clothes. Chapter 51. 3 Mysterious Academy, so stingy. "If you don't want to give it to me, then don't give it to me," the woman snorted. "Young lord." A black-clothed man seemed to be unable to watch any longer as he shouted with a deep voice. From his voice, he could tell that she was an old woman. "All of you can leave now. He is a student of the Hua Ling Wu Academy. If we kill him and the Hua Ling Wu Academy finds out, our Meng family might be wiped out." The woman said casually, "He didn't see anything just now anyway." "All right." After one of the black-clothed men finished speaking, he left with a schwa sound. The other black-clothed men followed suit. Qin Yun thought to himself that there was indeed a Meng family in the Tianqin kingdom. The current patriarch of the Meng family was the famous Demon Suppression King. He guarded a place at the border of the Tianqin kingdom where demons and beastmen frequented. "Little brother, where are you going? Is it to the Imperial City? I also want to go to the Imperial City, let's go together." The woman giggled and pinched Qin Yun's handsome face. "Senior, I'm going to the Divine Inscription Palace," Qin Yun said. "Such a coincidence? I also want to go to the Divine Inscription Palace. Let's go together." The woman shook off the blood on the sword in her hand and sheathed it. Qin Yun only nodded and did not say anything else. Then, he ran behind the woman. "Do you want to know who we were killing just now?" the woman suddenly asked. No. Qin Yun did not know much about the Meng family. They did not come into contact with the palace all year round. "We are killing a demon beast. This demon beast has done many evil deeds, but it has been subdued, so we lured the rank 7 demon beast here to kill it." Although Qin Yun did not want to know, the woman still said it. It made sense that the Meng family often hunted down demon beasts and beastmen who killed people. Qin Yun did not ask any further questions. He remained silent along the way. On the other hand, the charming woman chattered non-stop along the way. Her name was Meng Failing. She had 5 spirit veins and a platinum-rank eagle martial spirit. This kind of talent was definitely considered a genius. What surprised Qin Yun was that she was only 17 years old and was already at the 6th level of the martial body realm. Furthermore, she looked so mature and alluring, like a ripe fruit. "I've said so much, it's your turn." Meng Feiling coquettishly licked her lips and narrowed her eyes. She smiled and said, "Why don't you like to talk? Are you really a little mute? Do you want me to teach you how to speak with my tongue?" Qin Yun's mind stirred slightly. Just as he was about to say something, he heard a lion's roar coming from outside. Meng Feiling pouted coquettishly and said angrily, "The Tian Shao Empire's Shao Lang is here. This bastard rides a stage 7 snow lion all day to scare people. Sooner or later, I will kill that snow lion. This beast has eaten a lot of people." Shao Lang was actually here. Qin Yun was alarmed. Shao Lang was the second prince of the Tian Shao Empire, and he actually appeared in the vicinity of the Tianqin imperial city. Meng Feiling seemed to be quite familiar with him. "Senior, what is he doing here?" Qin Yun asked softly. "I'm here to participate in the Great Ensemble. This time, the Great Ensemble is hosted by our Tianqin Empire's Divine Inscription Palace. I'm on my way there right now," Meng Feiling said. "Hero gathering?" Qin Yun was unaware of this matter. Only students who have entered the Three Mysterious Academy can participate. As Meng Feiling spoke, a gust of cold air assaulted them. In the blink of an eye, a snow-white male lion rushed in. On the back of the snow lion was a thin and handsome man. He wore luxurious silver armor and had a long sword in a golden sheath hanging from his waist. He looked extraordinary. This person was the second prince of the Tian Shao Empire, Shao Lang. "Yo, Demonis Meng, I didn't expect you to have such a taste. I like this kind of little brat." Shao Lang looked at Qin Yun and said with a lecherous smile, "At least he's not as annoying as you, and he looks much better than you." Meng Feiling snorted softly and pulled Qin Yun along. She increased her speed and soared into the air. Stepping on the tree branches, she shook off Shao Lang in a few moments. "This annoying fellow. Sooner or later, I will destroy him. He always likes to have bad ideas about me. Little brother is still the best. You are good-looking and very honest. I like people like you." The more Meng Feiling looked at Qin Yun, the more she found him pleasing to the eye. They quickly walked out of the forest and saw the gates of the imperial city not far away. Qin Yun was still secretly shocked by Shao Lang's strength. The strength of the Tian Shao Empire seemed to be much stronger than Tianqin, especially the strength of the princes and princesses. Shao Yuelon alone was enough to suppress Tianqin. Qin Yun asked, "Senior, what is the Three Mysterious Academy?" Meng Feiling said, "As long as you can step into the 6th level of the martial body realm before the age of 20, you can enter the Three Mysterious Academy. After entering for a period of time, you will be able to participate in the selection of the Great Ensemble. After passing the selection, you will be able to enter the Tianxian Martial School, the Star Xian Wu Academy or the Ling Xian Wu Academy." The Great Ensemble was created by the 3 martial academies and the Divine Inscription Palace. It was mainly to select the best students. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the magnificent city gate that was dozens of meters tall. Qin Yun looked at the city gate and sighed with emotion. This was the first time he had entered and exited the imperial city so freely. After entering the city gate, he was like a child. The moment he saw the bustling streets, he became extremely excited. When he discovered something new, he couldn't help but take a look. The main reason was that he had grown up in the imperial palace and had never properly played in the city. "From the looks of it, you must have rarely come out to play. I'll take you to the Divine Inscription Palace first." Meng Feiling smiled sweetly. Following that, she led Qin Yun through the streets of various sizes. After a short while, they arrived at the west side of the imperial city. There was a large villa here that was also far away from the busy city. Inside the villa, there were many tall buildings and palaces. When Meng Feiling and Qin Yun arrived, they sensed a trace of cold air. This was the aura of a snow lion. Shao Lang had actually arrived here before them. At the very front of the villa was a magnificent golden-red palace. This was the main hall of the Divine Inscription Palace. The Divine Inscription Palace was located above 1,000 stone step. It shone with a golden light, luxurious and glorious. Meng Feiling led Qin Yun up the stone steps and into the hall. The interior of the hall was very spacious and the decorations were very simple and unadorned. It was solemn and dignified. There were many ancient beast totems engraved on the huge pillars. Xiao Lang and a group of young men and women with extraordinary strength were chatting and laughing here. There were 20 to 30 people here, all of them from the three empires of Tianqin, Tianshao and Tianqi. They were all outstanding youths at the 6th level of the martial body realm. They would compete. If they were outstanding, they would be chosen and would be able to enter the Xian level martial academy. When Xiao Lang saw Meng Feiling and Qin Yun enter, he sneered and said, "Which, you are still as willful as ever. You came to participate in such an important gathering of heroes, and even brought your little lover with you. Looking at his aura, he is only at the 4th level of the martial body realm. You are really messing around." A woman in a red dress also sneered. "This is the Divine Inscription Palace. Do you know that the chief steward hates people who come in the most? He is a student of the Hualing Wu Academy. He is not some random person. You, Princess Tianqi, dare to be so arrogant in our Tianzhao's territory?" Meng Feiling angrily rebuked, "Be careful. If I find the chance, I will tear your stinky mouth apart." "Quiet, the chief steward is here," a middle-aged man shouted coldly. Everyone immediately quietened down. The chief steward of the Divine Inscription Palace was of high status and power. No one dared to mess around here. Chapter 52. The importance of the chief executive. The conflict between Xiao Lang and Meng Feiling was not small. Otherwise, Xiao Lang would not have found an opportunity to target Meng Feiling. When Duan Qian saw that it was Qin Yun, he could not help but laugh. He said, "Qin Yun is no idle person. He is the youngest beginner talisman master in our Divine Inscription Palace." He said to Qin Yun, "Your injuries healed so quickly? I thought it would take you a few days to get here." Duan Qian's words caused Xiao Lang and the group of young 6th level martial body students to look at Qin Yun. They were extremely shocked. They had never seen Qin Yun before, but Qin Yun's name resounded like thunder in their ears. He was the one who defeated Yan Qingyu yesterday. Yan Qingyu was originally from the Three Mysterious Academy, but because he was fancied by the teachers of the Tianqian martial school, he was recruited in advance. When they learned that Yan Qingyu had been crippled by a fellow called Qin Yun, they were all shocked. Meng Feiling was so shocked that her mouth opened slightly. She stared at Qin Yun with widened eyes. She had wanted to ask for Qin Yun's name before, but she had suddenly been interrupted by Xiao Lang and had forgotten about it. She didn't expect that this junior brother was actually a young and influential figure. She glanced at Xiao Lang and the others and snorted softly, "What snobs!" Duan Qian took out a badge and walked in front of Qin Yun with a smile. He handed it over and said with a smile, "This is the badge of a grade talisman master. With this badge, you can stay in the Divine Inscription Palace at any time and entrust the Divine Inscription Palace to sell spirit talismans. You can also inquire about the latest news that you need to pay attention to." To be valued so highly by the General Director of the Divine Inscription Palace, this group of young people who were able to step into the 6th level of the martial body realm at such a young age and were of noble birth were extremely jealous. Especially Xiao Lang. Originally, he was the most eye-catching person here, but now, compared to Qin Yun, he was much inferior. He crippled Yan Qingyu. The Tianqian martial school will not let this matter rest. Xiao Lang snorted. At the very least, the Tianqian martial school will not want him in the future. It's fine. Qin Yun killed Yan Qingyu, which means that he is stronger than Yan Qingyu. If the Profound Sky Martial Arts Academy doesn't want him, Ling Xian and the Star Xian Wu Academy might fight for him. Duan Xian chuckled, because he doesn't have too many spirit veins. Otherwise, it would have been snatched away by the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. Meng Fei's face is filled with arrogance. She looked at Xiao Lang and company complacently and then said to Qin Yun in a sweet voice, "My little brother Yun is truly awesome. Can you give big sister a talisman you refined? Let me keep it as a souvenir." Her naughty hands caressed Qin Yun's handsome face. "Of course you can. This is a fire talisman that I refined. Here." Qin Yun handed 2 talismans to Meng Feiling. He felt extremely comfortable being touched by a soft, jade-like hand. "Qin Yun, the spirit inscriptions on your fire talisman are high-grade spirit inscriptions. Even our divine inscription palace doesn't have many of these spirit inscriptions," Duan Qian exclaimed. This caused the middle-aged men in the divine inscription palace to be moved. The expressions of the young 6th-level martial body cultivators also changed slightly. Every single superior-grade spirit pattern was a priceless treasure. When it was inscribed on spirit artifacts, its might was much stronger than that of mid-grade and inferior-grade spirit runes. "Head Chief, how can I refine weapons? I don't understand," Qin Yun asked. Duan Qian was proficient in this Tao. If he were to give him a pointer or two, he would be able to avoid many detours. Duan Qian said earnestly, "The process of refining a spirit artifact is very complicated. It is not something that can be mastered in a day or two. You must not be fast and you need to build a solid foundation. Otherwise, you will cause great harm to yourself. How about this, if you have time, come to the Divine Inscription Palace often. I'll personally guide you. I have to arrange for them to participate in the Great Assembly now." To be able to receive guidance from the General Director was equivalent to receiving guidance from a master teacher. Master Wei's name was resounding, but the nobles knew that Duan Qian's level was above Master Wei's. Many people with power and wealth wanted their descendants to learn from him. However, he was stubborn and did not want any benefit. He rejected them one by one. And now, he valued Qin Yun so much that the disciples of the famous sects present were at a loss as to what to do. If they met a talent like Qin Yun with a limitless future, it would be best to befriend him immediately. However, Qin Yun's situation was too special. He had formed an enmity with the Tianqin Empress and many of the Tianqin generals. If they befriended Qin Yun, they would offend most of the powers in Tianqin. Therefore, they did not dare to act rashly. If they were to be blamed by their families, they would not be able to bear the responsibility. The only thing they could do was not to become enemies with Qin Yun for the time being. On the other hand, Meng Feiling did not have any worries. She had a very close relationship with Qin Yun. "I'm going to participate in the Great Assembly. Wait for my good news." After Meng Feiling finished speaking, she followed Duan Qian. After they left, the Divine Inscription Palace became extremely deserted. The main reason was that there weren't many inscription masters. Qin Yun asked for a suite on the floor above the main hall. Inside the suite, there were a few rooms and a quiet secret room, as well as a large hall and a bathroom. He began crafting talismans in a secret room. Ordinary low-grade fire talismans can be sold for 200 crystal coins. If it's a little better, it can be sold for 300. As for the fire talismans that I've refined, it can be sold for at least 400, right? When Qin Yun thought of how he could earn a lot of crystal coins by selling fire talismans, he excitedly picked up a piece of talisman paper and began inscribing spirit marks. He had a low-grade spirit artifact carving knife, so it was even easier for him to craft talismans. In just 2 hours, he had created 5 talismans. Crafting talismans consumed a lot of inner qi and mental energy. Every time he made one, he needed to rest for a while before he could continue. Qin Yun had been crafting talismans for 8 hours straight. Although he was a little tired, He could not help but reveal a happy smile when he saw the 20 fire talismans. If everything goes smoothly, I can get 8,000 crystal coins. Qin Yun was secretly delighted. If he relied on hunting beasts to earn crystal coins, it would take more time and there would be a certain amount of risk. It's about time, let's rest first. He lay on a comfortable chair and took out the bamboo slip with the 36 spirit marks to look at it. There were many types of spirit inscriptions, and refining materials required alchemy inscriptions. The alchemy inscriptions could be carved on the forging hammer and then used to forge materials, allowing the quality of the materials to be higher. The alchemy inscriptions could also be carved in the furnace, allowing the smelting of materials to be faster and better. There were alchemy inscriptions in his scroll, and they were of high quality. The most commonly used inscriptions on spirit artifacts were solid inscriptions that could make spirit artifacts stronger. Then there were the elemental spirit inscriptions, such as thunder, fire, ice, darkness, space, and so on. He had all of these spirit inscriptions. Beast marks were also very useful. For example, if a flying demonic beast's flying beast mark was engraved on a spirit artifact, the spirit artifact would be able to fly. They were all rather profound. In addition, there were also illusion inscriptions, poison inscriptions, soul inscriptions, and light inscriptions. They were all very rare. I can buy the furnace and forging hammer at the Divine Inscription Palace first. When my level increases in the future, I can refine them myself. I need to quickly learn how to refine artifacts and sell spirit artifacts to make more money. Qin Yun picked up a booklet in the room. On it were the items for sale in the Divine Inscription Palace. A low-grade spirit artifact furnace costs 600,000 crystal coins. The cheapest forging hammer costs 400,000. In total, I need 1,000,000 crystal coins. Where can I find so many crystal coins? In order to become an inscription master, one needed a very strong foundation of wealth. Even if he could afford these things, he would still have to buy spirit inscriptions. The most important thing was still talent. Without talent, no matter how rich he was, it would be useless. I'll use a half-spirit artifact for now. Qin Yun was very poor now, so he could only make such a plan. Chapter 53. Beginner Artifact Forging. When Qin Yun left the bamboo forest, he left a note for Yang Shiryu, saying that he had gone to the Divine Inscription Palace and that she did not need to worry. In the Divine Inscription Palace, he was busy refining artifacts. After 2 days, he saw a beautiful teacher arrive. Yang Shiryu was wearing a blue dress. It was a dress that Qin Yun thought looked better. When she entered Qin Yun's secret chamber, she felt a wave of heat. She also saw the 1-meter-tall furnace. "You've started forging?" Yang Shiryu said in surprise. If Qin Yun could forge a spirit artifact with his talent, he would not have to worry about other powers finding trouble with him. "Yes, but I haven't mastered it yet." Qin Yun nodded. He had just finished carving the alchemy runes on the furnace and forging hammer. Yang Shiryu picked up the forging hammer and saw the neat and beautiful lines on it. She secretly praised Qin Yun in her heart. Qin Yun's inscription had improved by a lot. Her eyes were filled with encouragement as she looked at Qin Yun and said with a smile, "There's no rush. Forging a spirit artifact requires a learning process." "Teacher, why is the dean looking for you?" Qin Yun was more worried that Yang Shiryu would be transferred away. Yang Shiryu put down the forging hammer and picked up a lightning talisman to look at. She said softly, "He wants me to return to the Tianqian martial school. It's a private matter regarding me. I'll be back for about a month. You can stay here for this month." Although the Yen family hasn't made any movements, it doesn't mean that they won't do anything. You are very safe in the Divine Inscription Palace. Qin Yun threw the iron into the furnace. With a hint of worry on his face, he said, "Teacher, you must spend this semester with me." Yang Shiryu smiled sweetly and said, "I know. Now No one can stop me from continuing to teach you. Oh right, your cultivation is rising too quickly. It's best if you spend some time consolidating and stabilizing it. During this period of time, you should properly study artifact forging. Wait for me to come back before you start cultivating the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra was not easy to cultivate. Many people were stuck here for a long time, at least 1 or 2 years, at most 10 years. After Yang Shi warned Qin Yun a few things, she hurriedly left the divine inscription palace. Qin Yun could only work hard to learn artifact forging and increase his strength, so that he could help this beautiful and slightly melancholic beautiful teacher in the future. He channeled his fire inner force to his hands, causing them to turn red. He took out a few pieces of red-hot iron from the furnace with his bare hands, stacked them together, and pressed them together. He wanted to start from the most basic, which was to use the most common iron to forge spirit iron, and then forge the ghost head saber. Qin Yun's forging process could be said to be very smooth. It was mainly because he had the vibration martial spirit. Using the explosive impact of the vibration, he could achieve twice the result with half the effort. Furthermore, the alchemy patterns carved on the forging hammer were high-grade spirit patterns. After inner force was injected into the spirit patterns, the forging hammer would release a strange and scorching power, turning ordinary iron into spirit iron. The iron that weighed thousands of kilograms was reduced to the size of a knife by him. This was only a rough embryo. It was very heavy and sturdy, so it needed to be carefully polished. After tossing and turning for a whole day, he finally made a demon head saber. It's much better than my previous one. It seems like it's the effect of the alchemy patterns. A good alchemy pattern can increase the quality of the materials during the forging process. What kind of spirit inscription should I inscribe? Although this saber is forged from spirit iron, it's still not strong enough. At most, it's only a half-spirit weapon. He tested it and discovered that his inner force could be smoothly injected into the blade. This meant that he did not need the origin gathering inscription to increase the smoothness of his inner chi and inner force. In this way, I can carve solid inscriptions. Solid inscriptions could strengthen the entire body of an artifact. They were commonly used spirit inscriptions. He had mastered high-grade solid inscriptions, which were relatively good. This was his first time carving high-grade spirit inscriptions on a weapon. This was very challenging. The origin-gathering inscriptions he had carved in the past were all common basic spirit inscriptions. There was no difficulty at all. He had originally planned to cultivate for half a day before starting to inscribe spirit inscriptions. However, when he thought about how he had to circulate his inner yuan and spirit to the limit to consolidate his cultivation, he did not rest and endured his exhaustion to inscribe spirit inscriptions. When he was inscribing solid inscriptions, it was very smooth from the beginning. When the carving knife moved, it was as if a pen was smoothly drawing on paper. He used the carving knife as a pen and the power of the blood soul as ink. The brush moved like a dragon and snake, and the solid inscription was completed in one go. Late at night, Qin Yun completed one side of the blade. Very smooth. He looked at the natural patterns on the blade, and an indescribable sense of accomplishment made him smile. After resting for a moment, he continued to inscribe. At daybreak, Qin Yun raised his carving knife and let out a long sigh. He laughed loudly and said, "It's done." He had also reached his limit. Even walking was a little weak, so he fell asleep on the side of the bed. Dong, dong, dong. At noon, someone knocked on the door and woke Qin Yun up. After he got up, he hurriedly opened the door. "General Director." Qin Yun was surprised to see the white-robed Duan Qian. "Kid, you seemed to be busy late last night. What were you doing?" Duan Qian glanced into the room and saw a furnace and a forging hammer. He was slightly shocked. "You've started forging." "I'm forging a half-spirit artifact." Qin Yun did not hide it and grinned. After Duan Qian entered the room, he was even more shocked when he saw the alchemy patterns on the furnace and the forging hammer. High-grade alchemy runes were very precious. "Show me your work." Duan Qian was a little excited. Qin Yun had previously received Duan Qian's help twice in secret, so he had an extremely good impression of Duan Qian. Moreover, he held a high position and was not a despicable person. He was trustworthy. He immediately took out 2 knives. One was carved with origin-gathering runes and the other with solid runes. Duan Qian frowned as he looked at the 2 blades and observed them very seriously. A moment later, he said, "The solid inscription is not bad. For someone of your age, this is not easy. However, there are still a few flaws. Your solid inscription gives off a weak feeling and is slightly jerky. It should be because you were not in a good enough state when you were inscribing the inscriptions. As for the one with the origin-gathering rune, it's extremely good. It's full of spirit and it's also very familiar." It was Qin Yun's second time carving the origin-gathering rune. He had indeed maintained a good enough state. As for the one with the solid inscription, it was the first time he had come into contact with the solid inscription. Furthermore, in order to temper himself to the limit, he had endured his exhaustion to carve. Duan Qian had seen through all of this, causing Qin Yun to be filled with admiration. Chapter 54. A group of geniuses. Since Duan Qian had said so, Qin Yun would naturally pay attention. He was currently in a very good state. After eating the beast meat that Duan Qian had sent over, he was even more energetic. Duan Qian also fulfilled his previous promise and began to guide him in artifact forging, explaining the essentials of artifact forging. First, it was some general knowledge, then it was the essence of forging a half-spirit artifact. These were all his own experiences. The lesson lasted until night, and Qin Yun listened attentively. His terrifying comprehension ability also surprised Duan Qian. For example, some of the more difficult areas could be mastered with just a little explanation. "Grandpa Duan, I am truly grateful for your teachings." Qin Yun bowed to Duan Qian with deep gratitude. Duan Qian smiled and said, "It's just a small matter. Besides, you are also a promising talent. You don't have the arrogance of other young people, and your temperament is extremely good. Wei Xuanquan does indeed have some talent, but he is too proud and thinks highly of himself. I have taught him a few times, but not only was he absent-minded, he never thanked me. He even thought that I should teach him. He felt that he was a genius and that everyone had to revolve around him." He patted Qin Yun on the shoulder and smiled in relief. He continued, "In my eyes, you are more outstanding than most of the so-called geniuses. In the past 5 years, it has not been easy for you to climb out of that abyss of eternal damnation. Because of this, you have a calmness that your peers do not have." "Grandpa Duan, how's the gathering?" Qin Yun suddenly thought of this matter and was somewhat curious. "It's just like that. A group of so-called geniuses with bad tempers gathered together to compete and fight to the death." Duan Qian smiled. "That's not something you need to worry about. You have to consolidate your cultivation and then learn how to forge a variety of half-spirit artifacts. Once you have a solid foundation and step into the 6th level of the martial body realm, you will have enough mental strength to forge a true spirit artifact." Good half-spirit artifacts were also very expensive. The 2 sabers that Qin Yun had forged were each sold for more than 20,000 crystal coins. A top-grade half-spirit artifact could even be sold for 100,000 crystal coins. For example, one that was refined from a rank 4 beast bone and a low-grade spirit steel. In order to become a good refiner, one had to be proficient in the creation of materials. In the Divine Inscription Palace, Qin Yun helped Duan Qian forge the rank 4 demonic beast bone and low-grade spirit steel into pieces of low-grade bone steel. Each piece of bone steel was only the size of a palm, but it weighed several dozen kilograms. After more than 20 days of forging, he had become more and more proficient. The low-grade bone steel he had forged was comparable to the ones Duan Qian had forged. Inferior-grade bone steel was the main material needed to forge inferior-grade spirit weapons. Working for the Divine Inscription Palace also had a good reward. In the past 20 days, Qin Yun had earned more than 100,000 crystal coins from selling a few sabers. He now had more than 200,000 crystal coins, which was considered very rich for a 15-year-old. Next, I want to refine some good half-spirit artifacts for myself. With a saber, Qin Yun did not need to refine any more weapons for the time being. He felt that the forging hammer was not good enough, so he decided to use low-grade bone steel to refine a good forging hammer. In order to forge a real spirit artifact, one needed to carve 2 different spirit inscriptions. In order not to disturb another type of spirit rune, one had to have an extremely strong mental power to control it. Although Qin Yun's mental strength was strong, it was insufficient. If he were to forcefully refine it, it would cause his mind to be injured. Therefore, he could only refine a half-spirit artifact to lay a good foundation. Inscribing spirit inscriptions on low-grade bone steel was much more difficult than inscribing spirit iron. The purple-gold fire martial spirit also played a great role at this time. The power of the blood soul condensed from the fire inner force was extremely scorching hot. It was easier for it to carve lines on the hard bone steel. After being taught by Duan Qian for almost a month, Qin Yun had made tremendous progress. Especially when it came to forging half-spirit artifacts, he had already reached an extremely high level. In order to keep the high-grade spirit inscriptions that he had mastered a secret, he would not sell a half-spirit artifact with high-grade spirit inscriptions carved on it. The forging hammer and furnace have been forged. They are all made from bone steel. When I can carve a second type of spirit inscription myself, I will be able to turn them into real spirit artifacts. Qin Yun looked at the things he had painstakingly forged and was filled with joy. With a better forging hammer and furnace, it would be much easier to forge high-grade bone steel. He also planned to create an offensive half-spirit artifact, so he specially went to consult Duan Qian. After a deep discussion with Duan Qian, he had a rough idea in his mind and hurriedly went back to forge it. After more than 10 days, Qin Yun finally finished refining the half-spirit artifact. It was a very exquisite light gold wristband with lightning inscriptions. It was engraved with lightning runes that could store inner force. At a critical moment, he could activate the wristband and unleash a powerful thunder and lightning inner force to attack and defend himself. Duan Qian took it and played with it for a moment. He injected his inner force into it and released a violent bolt of lightning through the wristband. He praised, "This lightning wristband is not bad. It's equivalent to a 6th-level martial body. Furthermore, it's a lightning attribute inner force. However, it can only be used once. Once is enough to give the enemy a fatal blow," Qin Yun said with a smile. As long as he activated the lightning wristband to unleash the power of lightning, the inner force inside would be exhausted and he would need to replenish it. Qin Yun had been in the Divine Inscription Palace for more than a month and Yang Shi had yet to return. This made him somewhat worried. "Grandpa Duan, do you know where Teacher Yang came from?" Qin Yun had always wanted to know more about Yang Shi. Duan Qian stroked his long white beard and frowned slightly. "It's hard to say. In short, she's in a bit of trouble right now. Since she didn't tell you, I can't say too much. You should work hard to improve yourself. Only by grasping great power can you change a lot of things." "And I will definitely work hard." Qin Yun did not pursue the matter. Yang Shi possessed the moon martial spirit. With such outstanding talent, she definitely came from a famous sect. Most of the disciples of famous sects had no choice. For example, Xiao Yuelon, a daughter of the heavens, was restrained and could not even decide on her own marriage. Thinking of this, Qin Yun secretly rejoiced that he had already escaped from this situation. A middle-aged man knocked on the door and entered. It was Duan Qian's follower. The results of the great ensemble have already been decided. Xiao Yuanmei is first, Xiao Lang is second, Qin Feng is third, Meng Fei Ling is fourth, Yi Chen Lei is fifth. The top 10 have all been accepted by the 3 Xian-level martial academies. The middle-aged man said. He actually recruited 10 at once. In the past, only the top 3 were taken away. Duan Qian was somewhat surprised. After thinking for a moment, he said with a smile, "No wonder. There are quite a few good foundations this time." Qin Yun was alarmed. Xiao Yuanmei was clearly the princess of the Tian Shao Empire. She was actually number 1. From the name, she was definitely Xiao Yuelan's sister. Chapter 55. Hidden Dragon. Qin Yun was the 5th prince and Qin Tianyi was the 4th prince. The first prince had died when he was a few years old. The current crown prince of Tianqin was the 3rd prince. As the 2nd prince, Qin Feng's aptitude was not bad either. 4 Sun Spiritual Pulse. Qin Yun did not know what his martial spirit was. Qin Feng had studied in another empire's martial arts academy, so he did not know much about it. Among the top 5, it seems that only Meng Fei Ling is not familiar with them. Duan Qian said. The 5th-ranked Yi Chunlei is also in cahoots with them? Qin Yun suddenly thought of the Yi family. The empress was a member of the Yi family, but he had never heard of such a person in the Yi family. Yi Chunlei has the Thunder Axe martial spirit and the 4 Sun spiritual pulse. Qin Feng has the Snow Wind martial spirit. They went to the Tian Shao Empire's martial arts academy to cultivate very early on, so it's normal that you don't know about it. Duan Qian said. They went there to befriend the powers of the Tian Shao Empire. The relationship between Tian Shao, Tianqin and Tianqi was quite good, especially between the princes and princesses. What about Xiao Yuanmei? Qin Yun suddenly felt that the princes of the Tianqin kingdom were too weak. She's Xiao Yuelan's younger sister. This girl is only 14 years old and she's already at the 6th level of the martial body realm. I don't know what martial spirit she has, but it won't be too bad. The young people of the Tian Shao Empire are all amazing. Duan Qian sighed and looked at Qin Yun. He said with a smile, "You're not much better than them. You're much stronger than them. Your comprehension of mysterious patterns is very high." General Director, the 3 people from the Black Level Martial Arts Academy are already in the living room. They want to see you. They have something to discuss with you. The middle-aged man said. All right, I'll be right there. After Duan Qian left, Qin Yun came to a training room. Every day, he would arrange time for him to practice his martial arts. Knowing that the Empress's power was getting stronger and stronger, he had to work even harder to increase his strength. Qi Explosion Technique. With a punch, inner force surged and exploded outwards. A wave of air shook out, shattering all the rocks in the surroundings. The Qi Explosion Technique has already reached the initial success stage. The Qi Explosion Technique is like a shock wave. The Qi Explosion Technique was a low-grade Xian-level martial technique. Qin Yun rarely used it in martial arts, but he still managed to cultivate it to the small success stage. The Flame Cloud Steps had also reached the peak of the small success stage. It allowed him to move without a trace and was even faster. The one that improved the most was the Flame Light Fist. That was because he often used the Flaming Light Fist to retrieve the scorching hot materials from the furnace. Now that he had mastered it, if he used his full strength, his fists would be as hard as spirit steel and red-hot like iron. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. In order to wait for Yang Shiyu to return from the Tianxian martial school, Qin Yun stayed in the Divine Inscription Palace and did not go anywhere. These days, he had been forging inferior-grade bone steel. This way, he could train himself and obtain a good reward. Every day, he would release his inner strength to the limit, so his bone meridian gradually stabilized and became very thick. Even if the inner force violently surged through the body, it would not hurt the tendons and bones. Qin Yun had 2 inner elemental energies. If he were to instantly unleash 2 inner elemental energies, his body would not be able to withstand the powerful burst of inner energy. I should be able to cultivate the Heart Sutra now. Cultivating the Heart Sutra was very difficult. It was said that it required a large amount of resources or a certain amount of luck. Young Master Qin, Miss Meng is looking for you. An old man's voice came from outside the door. He was one of the stewards here. Bring her to my living room. After Qin Yun finished speaking, he tidied up his clothes and walked into the hall. Meng Feiling, who was wearing black tight clothes, crossed her slender legs and sat on a chair, eating an apple. When she saw Qin Yun come out, she hurriedly stood up and said with a chuckle, "Greetings, Master Qin." "Senior, don't laugh at me." Qin Yun laughed at himself. "Of course not, you are a genuine master. You are much higher than that Wei Xuanquan." Meng Feiling smiled mischievously as she stuck out her tongue and threw an apple at Qin Yun. "Senior, congratulations on entering the Xian Level Martial Arts Academy." Qin Yun took the apple and took a bite as he said with a smile, "It's not a big deal, what's there to congratulate? You can go in the future. I'm going to the Star Xianwu Academy, you can come in the future as well. I'll continue to be your senior." Meng Feiling giggled as she gently caressed Qin Yun's cheek with the back of her hand. When Qin Yun smelled the wild fragrance on his body, he could not help but laugh dryly as he ate the apple. When Meng Feiling saw that he was blushing, she giggled and did not tease him. She asked, "Little brother Yun, do you still have that kind of fire talisman? I want to buy it." "Yes. How much do you want? I can give it to you." Qin Yun felt that Meng Feiling was a good person. She was not afraid of the Empress's faction and dared to be so close to him. Furthermore, she was very strong. "Give me 20. I don't need you to give it to me. I'll sell it for as much as I want. You're alone, so you lack crystal coins, don't you?" Meng Feiling said with great concern as she rubbed Qin Yun's head. 500 crystal coins each. 20 of them. A total of 10,000 crystal coins. How about it? Qin Yun did not stand on ceremony with Meng Feiling. After all, she was a very forthright woman. "All right." Meng Feiling took out 10 purple coins and handed them to Qin Yun. Usually, transactions that exceeded 10,000 would be settled with purple coins. "Senior, don't you have a storage spirit artifact?" Qin Yun saw Meng Feiling put the fire talisman into a bag. "No, that thing is too expensive and it's not often sold. Even Xiao Lang doesn't have it." Meng Feiling smiled and said, "If you can refine it in the future, you must sell it to me first. I'll save the crystal coins now. I'll give it to you when the time comes," Qin Yun said with a smile. Among the 36 spirit inscriptions, there were spatial spirit inscriptions that could allow him to refine a storage spirit artifact. Meng Feiling was extremely happy. She kissed him on the cheek, causing him to blush slightly, causing the demoness to smile even more beautifully. "Your bone meridian has been consolidated, right? Next, I'll have to start cultivating the Heart Sutra. This is a bit difficult. It took me a full year to cultivate it." Qin Yun sighed. It would indeed take a lot of time. Meng Feiling's eyes moved as she suddenly thought of something. She said, "Little brother Yun, you can participate in the Hidden Dragon martial arts competition and rush to the Hidden Dragon list. As long as you get first place, you will be able to obtain the Profound Heart Grass. Not only can the Profound Heart Grass help you cultivate the Heart Sutra, it will also be of great help to you in the future." Hidden Dragon martial arts competition? Qin Yun knew nothing about it. Following that, Meng Feiling told him about the Hidden Dragon martial arts competition. It was jointly organized by the 3 black-level martial academies and was under the responsibility of the Divine Inscription Palace. The location was in the Divine Inscription Villa. Both the 6th and 5th level martial body realm could participate, and Meng Feiling had also participated. Meng Feiling said, "Right now, the first ranked is Xiao Lang, Xiao Yuemei is 2nd and I am 5th. It has been held for more than a month, and there are still 2 months before the ranking is sealed." Qin Yun recalled a month ago. At that time, someone had suddenly come to look for Duan Qian. It was very likely that they were talking about this matter. "I'm only at the 5th level of the martial body realm? Is that really possible?" Qin Yun also felt that he did not have much hope. After all, the people on the rankings were all very strong. Otherwise, Duan Qian would definitely let him go. Chapter 56. Dragon Slayer. To be able to participate in the Hidden Dragon martial arts competition anonymously, Qin Yun was secretly tempted. Even if he lost, it was fine. He could just treat it as training. After Meng Feiling left, he immediately forged a black mask for himself and wore it firmly on his head. Then, he headed for the Hidden Dragon martial field. The Hidden Dragon martial field was located on the east side of the Inscription Villa. It was also a very large building. There were more than 10 battle stages in the martial field. The main battle stage in the middle was the largest and was 100 meters wide. The other smaller battle stages were also 60 to 70 meters wide. After Qin Yun entered, he went to the registration counter. The registration fee is 100,000 crystal coins. An old man said. Just the registration fee alone was so high that only the disciples of aristocratic families could afford it. Qin Yun hesitated, wondering if he should sign up. If he couldn't rush to the front, then this 100,000 would be wasted. It should be known that the warriors at the top of the Hidden Dragon list were all very talented young experts. It was extremely difficult to defeat them. "All right, I will participate." Qin Yun thought about it and decided to sign up. Even if he didn't win, it was worth it to spar with all kinds of people. "You participated anonymously, right? Codename?" the old man asked as he received the 100 purple coins. "Dragon slaying." Qin Yun immediately thought of such a name. The elder nodded and made the badge for Qin Yun on the spot. He also let him drip blood on it to recognize him as the master. When going on stage to compete, one had to use a drop of blood on the badge to verify their identity, in case someone impersonated them. Qin Yun received the badge and headed to the interior of the hall. He saw that there were many names on the wall of the martial field. Dragon Slayer was at the very end. There were no top 10 names on this wall. The top 10 rankings were on a giant golden tablet with a dragon carved on it. The giant golden monument was near the center area. It stood tall and majestic, and it was extremely eye-catching. The name on it was also shining with golden light. "I wonder if I can enter the top 10. Qin Yun's heart was stirred as he hurriedly went to understand the rules. Those ranked below 100 can skip 20 challenges. In other words, the 1000th ranked person could only challenge the 980th ranked person at most. From the 100th to the 11th place, one could only skip 5 challenges, but not the top 10. If he wanted to get first place, he would have to defeat everyone in the top 10. Those ranked below 100th would have to come out and accept the challenge within 2 hours. After being challenged, there would be a 6-hour truce period. Those ranked 11th to 100th would need 4 hours to accept the challenge, and the truce period was 8 hours. The top 10 had to accept the challenge within 6 hours, and the truce period was 12 hours. In 2 months, the Hidden Dragon martial arts competition will be sealed. I have to get into the top 10 before the seal. Qin Yun took his badge and went to the challenge office to register. He directly jumped 20 to challenge. In the first match, his opponent was a middle-aged man at the 5th level of the martial body realm. He only used 3 moves to knock his opponent off the stage. It was a very easy victory. Following that, Qin Yun began the second round. He also jumped 20 to challenge. If that person is in a truce, then jump 19. As long as he continuously challenged others and won consecutively, his ranking would quickly rise, and he would not be challenged by others. In one day, he had fought 10 matches and his ranking had risen by almost 200. In the Hidden Dragon martial field, many people were waiting for a challenge or to see who was weaker so that they could make a move. If he could enter the top 100, he would be able to obtain 2 superior yuan pills, and he would be able to recoup his losses. Therefore, entering the top 100 was the goal of many people. I've finally been challenged. Is it because I'm only at the 5th level of the martial body realm? Although Qin Yun had 2 hours to prepare, he still immediately accepted the challenge. After he walked onto the battling platform, he saw that the person who challenged him was a middle-aged man with a full beard. He was at the 6th level of the martial body realm. Dragon slaying and Yang Han, begin now. Qin Yun did not use the flaming cloud step. This would expose his identity. He could only use his inner force to run, but his speed was not slow at all. In an instant, he dodged Yang Han's palm strike. Yang Han never expected that the person in front of him, who was at the 5th level of the martial body realm, would be so nimble. He was secretly alarmed. Because Qin Yun had won many matches in a row and was only at the 5th level of the martial body realm, he had been noticed by some people for a long time. "You're a little slow," Qin Yun said with a chuckle before quickly walking forward. His fist casually smashed down and landed on Yang Han's shoulder, creating a burst of flames. Yang Han cried out in pain as he flew out. Qin Yun's punch, just now, left many people astonished. That seemingly casual punch seemed to have a knack for it. The path of the punch was naturally smooth, and the use of inner force was extremely appropriate. It was as if an old blacksmith was skilled at forging iron. Just now, Qin Yun had used his fist as a forging hammer. He took 2 steps forward and kicked out. A burst of inner chi surged out and sent Yang Han flying off the battling platform. A 5th-level martial body had actually defeated a 6th level. He had won very easily. This caused quite a commotion. The people who came to participate in the Hidden Dragon gathering mainly came from the 3 empires and a few small and medium-sized countries. The vast majority of them were at the 6th level of the martial body realm. They were all shocked to see a 6th-level martial body lose to a 5th-level martial body. After Qin Yun was challenged, he would be able to obtain a truce of 6 hours. He hurriedly returned to the Divine Inscription Palace to rest. He came to the door of the room and opened it. A familiar fragrance wafted over. He saw Yang Shiryu inside. She was dressed in light blue tight clothes and had a high ponytail. She was dressed very simply, making her look elegant and refreshing without losing her charm. Qin Yun heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Teacher, you're back." Yang Shiryu chuckled and picked up the tea on the table. She said, "I've been waiting for you for a long time. Even Chief Duan doesn't know where you've gone. Tell me, you might be with Meng Fei Ling." Qin Yun hurriedly waved his hand to explain, as if he was worried that he would be misunderstood. He said with a smile, "I'm not with her." When Yang Shiryu saw his slightly red face, she smiled sweetly and said, "Why are you blushing? You should be happy that there's a girl who's close to you. Make good use of this opportunity, you're not young anymore." She walked over with a smile and placed her hand on Qin Yun's shoulder. She pretended to be serious and asked, "I already said not to run around. Where did you go?" Qin Yun took out a mask and put it on his face. He said with a smile, "Teacher, I'll participate in the Hidden Dragon martial arts competition anonymously. I'll try and see if I can get first place." Yang Shiryu had just returned from the Tianxian Martial Arts Academy. Of course, she knew about the Hidden Dragon martial arts competition. She also planned to let Qin Yun participate. She took the mask and put it on her face. She smiled mischievously. It's good to be anonymous. After all, the Empress has too many people. If they knew that you were participating, they would definitely do something. Qin Yun felt a little regretful. It's just that I can't use those martial techniques anymore. Otherwise, it would be very easy to see through them. Yang Shiyu returned the mask to Qin Yun and sat on a chair. She took a sip of tea and said, "That's not a problem. In terms of movement technique, as long as you don't deliberately release your movement technique inner chi, you won't be able to see through it. It's just that I can't use the flaming light fist because it's too obvious." Chapter 57. 10,000 Horses Shaking the Mountain. After Shuriwa handed over the 2 booklets to Qin Yun, she continued, "This is the mountain shaking style. If you learn the techniques inside, you will be able to make your inner chi and inner force even stronger. If the cultivator is strong enough, they will be able to shake a huge mountain. This is the 10,000 horse palm. It is said that it has reached the acme of perfection. Coupled with the cultivation of the 9th level martial body realm, it has the strength of 10,000 horses. Its aura is like 10,000 horses galloping. It is also a rather famous high-grade martial art. A high-grade martial technique was relatively easy for Qin Yun to grasp. It was suitable for him to learn now. With his comprehension of martial arts, he would be able to master it to the initial realm within a month. The Black Yang art was also a high-grade technique, and he had learned it to perfection. Yang Shiyu suddenly recalled that she had not taught Qin Yun for 2 months. She immediately entered the state of a teacher. Her beautiful face suddenly turned serious as she said, "Let's start learning now." Qin Yun nodded and listened to Yang Shiyu's explanation seriously as usual. 6 hours later, Qin Yun reached the rudimentary level. Yang Shiyu was only slightly surprised. She was no longer surprised by Qin Yun's heaven-defying perception. Once the truce was over, someone would come to challenge him at any time. Qin Yun immediately headed for the Hidden Dragon martial field. As soon as he arrived at the arena, Qin Yun began to challenge and raise his ranking. He could also try out the martial technique he had just learned. Yang Shiyu also came to the Hidden Dragon martial field. She wore a robe and a mask to conceal her identity. In the Hidden Dragon martial field, there were also many people who wanted to hide their identities, so her attire would not be strange. Duan Qian had just learned that Qin Yun had anonymously participated in the Hidden Dragon martial arts tournament. This was what Yang Shiyu had told him. She wanted him to help hide Qin Yun's identity at the critical moment. The person Qin Yun challenged was a middle-aged man in his 40s with a square face. He was at the 6th level of the martial body realm and was dressed decently. It was obvious that he was wealthy. From the very beginning, the square-faced middle-aged man used excellent qigong. His toes were like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. After a few taps, he leaped above Qin Yun, raised his thigh, and chopped down like an axe. His perfectly straight and powerful thighs looked like mountain-splitting axes, cleaving through the air and making whooshing sounds as he swept down. Such a smooth attack made many of the audience applaud and cheer. Qin Yun quickly moved a few meters away from his original spot. The square-faced middle-aged man had also expected him to move. He moved his body nimbly in the air, like a fish leaping in joy, and caught up with Qin Yun, who was moving away. His thigh slammed down like a giant axe chopping down a tree. Myriad horse palm. Qin Yun grunted inwardly. He raised his palm and struck at the thigh that seemed to be cleaving down. He stirred up a palm wind that sounded like the whinny of a horse as it whizzed out. Bang! The two forces collided, producing a muffled wave of air. The confident square-faced middle-aged man was also caught off guard. He was sent tumbling by Qin Yun's palm strike and fell off the battling platform in a comical manner. "Dragon slaying wins," the referee shouted. A 6th-level martial body with extraordinary strength had actually lost to an anonymous martial artist with the code name Dragon Slayer. This caused another small uproar. Now, the people at the bottom of the ranking are paying attention to Qin Yun. Although Qin Yun won, he did not feel satisfied, so he continued to challenge the top 10. He also didn't challenge those who were at the front, because he needed to practice martial arts, so that he could challenge more people. Just like that, he fought more than 10 matches in a row and did not lose once. At this moment, there were also people who recognized his martial skill and began to discuss it. From the discussions of the crowd, Qin Yun learned that the myriad horse palm was a high-grade martial skill that was relatively difficult to master. The myriad horse palm was sold in many places and was worth around 200,000 to 300,000. It wasn't too expensive and some small families could afford it. However, it was too difficult to learn, so very few people bought it. Qin Yun only used the myriad horse palm to attack. He wanted to use the mountain quaking stance, but there was no suitable opportunity. The mountain quaking stance was mainly used to deal with people with extremely strong defenses. He won more than 20 matches in a row and was ranked in the 800. After being challenged, he was finally granted a 6-hour truce. During the break, he hurriedly returned to his suite in the Divine Inscription Palace and continued practicing his martial arts. In the spacious training room of the suite, he fought with Yang Shiryu. This could train him to use his martial arts skills more freely. Yang Shiryu said, "You have to hurry up and rush into the top 100. The people in this ranking range are all of a higher level." After fighting with Qin Yun for 4 hours, she gave Qin Yun 2 hours to rest. In the span of a few days, Qin Yun continuously challenged and won all the way until he finally reached the 101st rank. Now, he was going to challenge the 100th rank. It had been many days since anyone had entered the top 100. Therefore, the moment Qin Yun challenged the 100th rank of the Hidden Dragon list, it immediately attracted the attention of many people. On the second floor of the Hidden Dragon Martial Field, there were many luxurious suites. Only extremely wealthy people could afford to live in them. From the rooms, one could also see the competition below. Most of the people ranked in the top 10 were in the heavenly suites on the second floor. Interesting. A guy at the 5th level of the martial body realm actually went from the last to the 100th place in a few days. A tall and sturdy young man with a beard on his face said. His voice was rough like thunder. He was Yi Chunlei, who was ranked 4th. "This guy can't be Qin Yun, right?" A woman in a red dress snorted coldly. She was the princess of the Tianqi Empire. Her name was Qi Shui and she was ranked 7th on the Hidden Dragon list. Xiao Lang said disdainfully, "Qin Yun is most proficient in the Fire Cloud Steps and the Flaming Light Fist. He doesn't have either. Of course, even if Qin Yun were to come, he would definitely not be our match. If Yan Qingyu were to seriously compete with Qin Yun, he would not have ended up like this." Qi Shui looked at a handsome youth who was drinking and said with a charming smile, "Qin Feng, aren't you going to watch this match? It's very popular." Qin Feng looked at Qi Shui indifferently. He looked rather proud as he said, "There's nothing to see. You're only ranked 7th right now. When will you reach 5th place? The 6th place Qi Milan is your princess and the 5th place is Meng Feiling. You aren't any worse than these 2 women, right?" "Qi Milan, that bitch. When I'm in a good condition, I'll definitely beat her down and make her lose in a very ugly manner." Qi Shui gritted her teeth and said, "As for that witch Meng Feiling, it's a bit difficult. I was almost killed by her in the competition at the Great Assembly." Qin Feng continued to drink and looked at Xiao Lang. He asked, "Have you finished your discussion with Yumei? With her personality, she will definitely get 1st place." On the Hidden Dragon list, Xiao Lang was ranked 1st and Xiao Yumei was 2nd. Xiao Lang sighed helplessly and cursed in a low voice. He said with a wry smile, "This girl is really a headache. Although she's not as cold as her sister, she has the same bad temper as her sister. If she wants to challenge me, I won't be able to fight or not. If they, who were ranked in the top 10, were to fight, there would definitely be a lot of commotion and it would attract a lot of attention, not to mention the competition between first and second place. After a loud explosion, a burst of exclamations suddenly came from outside the window. It's the mountain shaking style. Yi Chunlei looked down at the battling platform and was slightly shocked. Chapter 58. Preparing for the top 10. Many people thought that Qin Yun would be completely suppressed by the giant from the very beginning, who knew that after he displayed the mountain quaking form, the aura he released was not inferior to that of the giant. In just 2 moves, the giant was sent flying to the ground. After Qin Yun used the mountain quaking stance, he saw his opponent as a mountain. He saw himself as a giant halfway up the mountain and pushed the giant mountain. His aura was like the power to push a mountain. This was the power of the mountain quaking stance. After the giant stood up, Qin Yun immediately flew over and struck out with the mountain shaking stance. A blast of air blasted out and sent the giant flying. Bang! The giant's huge and heavy body landed heavily below the battling platform, shattering the thick stone tiles on the ground. Slaying dragon wins, advancing to the top 100. Qi Shui looked at Qin Yun, who was walking down the battling platform, and could not help but frown. She said, "This fellow easily entered the top 100. Even I wouldn't be able to knock that big guy off the stage so easily." Yi Chunlei's expression was solemn. "That's the Hans Han form. Where did this guy come from? He actually mastered such an unorthodox martial art. He must have studied it for many years." Xiao Lang laughed. "You're a big guy, you're most afraid of this kind of martial arts, right?" Yi Chunlei thought nothing of it and said with a cold smile, "Him? He's still inexperienced. I have the Thunder Axe martial spirit. Once I move my inner force, I can release lightning. If anyone tries to get close to me, they will definitely be struck by lightning." Qin Feng had just gone out for a while. When he pushed open the door and entered, there was a trace of doubt on his face as he said, "News just came that the masked man is living in the Divine Inscription Palace." Qi Shui exclaimed, "Could it really be Qin Yun?" Qin Feng shook his head and said, "The masked man is not Qin Yun. When Yang Shi returned from the Tianxian Martial Arts Academy, she went to the Divine Inscription Palace to bring Qin Yun back. My people went to the Divine Inscription Palace and found out that the masked man is a blacksmith in the Divine Inscription Palace who specializes in making low-grade bone steel. No wonder this fellow is so mysterious. The fellows in the Divine Inscription Palace have always been like this. There's nothing strange about it. It's fine as long as it's not Qin Yun. Otherwise, I would have to report it to the family." Yi Chunlei relaxed and sat down to drink. In the Divine Inscription Palace, in a training room, Yang Shi was fighting with Qin Yun. After sparring for more than 2 hours, Qin Yun was exhausted, but Yang Shi did not even pant. With a charming smile on her face, Yang Shi took out a special drink and poured a cup. She handed it to Qin Yun and said, "There are still about 40 days until the ranking is sealed. There's still plenty of time. It's best if you improve yourself as much as possible during this period of time. Only then will you be able to reach first place." Qin Yun drank a mouthful of the purple liquid. It was extremely unpleasant to drink. As it was given to him by Yang Shi, he could only bite the bullet and finish it. When Yang Shi saw Qin Yun's bitter face frown, she could not help but let out a bell-like laughter. She said, "It's a little unpleasant to drink. This is something that can quickly recover one's stamina." Indeed, not long after Qin Yun drank it, his body miraculously recovered his strength. Then, he continued to spar with Yang Shi until he was exhausted. Qin Yun sat on the ground and leaned against the wall. He drank the unpleasant drink and said with a face full of regret, Teacher, the wind-slaying spell is so powerful but I can't use it. This has a great restriction on my strength. Back then, he had relied on this move to defeat Yan Qingyu with his bare hands. If he could not use it, his strength would be greatly reduced. Yang Shiyu lowered her head and pondered. After thinking for a moment, she suddenly said, "The wind-slaying style is a saber technique. I'll try and see if I can change it into a hammer technique. In any case, you need to use it to forge weapons. It will be of help to you in the future." Qin Yun was immediately delighted as he said with a smile, "Teacher, you really are a martial arts master. Your comprehension of martial arts seems to be much faster than mine. When you gave me pointers, you were like a grandmaster. Furthermore, you are so beautiful." Yang Shiyu smiled and pouted coquettishly, "You little fellow, don't be so glib-tongued. I only understand martial arts quickly, but I can't comprehend its essence. I'm only strong in theory. This is mainly because when I was young, I often read through a large number of martial arts cultivation techniques to accumulate my foundation. You practice here by yourself. I'll go change a hammer technique for you." She entered the room. She needed a quiet environment to improve her cultivation technique. In order to narrow the gap between him and Yang Shiyu, Qin Yun needed to work harder. After training for more than 2 hours, he suddenly received a notice. Someone had come to challenge him and told him to accept the challenge within 4 hours. Not long after I entered the top 100, someone came to challenge me. Qin Yun also wanted to quickly see who was challenging him. More than 2 hours later, Qin Yun walked on the road to the Hidden Dragon Martial Field. On the way, a middle-aged woman walked over and handed him a piece of paper. He opened it and saw that it was written by Meng Feiling. "Little brother Yun, I've been closely watched recently, so I won't be meeting you anymore. I don't want to expose your identity. I wish you luck." After reading this line of graceful words, he clenched it tightly in his palm and released flames to burn it. As soon as he entered the Hidden Dragon Martial Field, he locked onto stage number 7. His opponent was standing there, an old man who was also a martial artist at the 6th level martial body realm. He looked very confident and wore a clean white robe with his sleeves rolled up. He looked like an expert. Qin Yun quickly walked onto the dueling platform as the referee shouted for the match to begin. "Watch this." The white-clothed old man was very polite, but his moves were not polite at all. They were all ruthless and vicious claw techniques. Like a wolf's attack, it caused many people to be secretly alarmed. Qin Yun was somewhat surprised. He never expected to meet such a powerful opponent so quickly. The white-clothed old man's speed was very fast. Whether it was the speed of his attacks or the speed of his running, he was faster than Qin Yun. In the luxurious suite on the 2nd floor of the Hidden Dragon Martial Field, Xiao Lang held a cup of wine in his hand and smiled faintly. "Attack like a wolf, speed like the wind. This is the most outstanding part of Old Man Wolf." Yi Chunlei said, "Old Man Wolf is Yu Mei's follower, right? He's really strong." Xiao Lang said with a smile, "That girl Yu Mei, letting her follower participate in the Hidden Dragon martial arts competition should be because she wants him to enter the top 10. At that time, if he can't even defeat her follower, he will be laughed at. What a playful girl." On the battling platform, Qin Yun did not know that Old Man Wolf was Xiao Yuemei's follower. He only knew that the other party's strength was extraordinary and his combat experience was extremely rich. He and Old Man Wolf had exchanged more than 100 moves, but he was still unable to tell what the other party's martial spirit was. Up until now, he had been completely suppressed and could only dodge his opponent's swift and violent attack. Could it be that this old man has a dual attribute martial spirit, the Wind Wolf martial spirit? Qin Yun guessed. There were quite a few dual attribute martial spirits, which meant that there were 2 attributes in one martial spirit. The mountain shaking style was used to deal with slow-moving martial artists with extremely strong defense. However, against such a nimble martial artist, it was impossible to use it. Qin Yun was extremely puzzled. He could not use the fire cloud steps or the wind slasher art. Otherwise, he would have been able to defeat his opponent by surprise. The wind slasher art was a martial art that restrained the wind. He had attacked more than 10 times, but he did not put any pressure on his opponent. The main reason was that his opponent's speed was too fast, and he could always dodge them. That's the only way. Qin Yun hardened his heart and gathered a surge of inner qi. Chapter 59. 6 Styles of Forging Dragon. The Qi Explosion technique was Qin Yun's trump card, but even if he used it directly, he might not be able to hit it. This was because the old man's speed was too fast. Old Wolf launched another swift and violent attack. A pair of wolf claws swiped over. Originally, he thought that Qin Yun would dodge, but he never expected that Qin Yun would directly attack with his palm. Furthermore, it was aimed at his claws. Myriad horse palm. Everyone was alarmed by Qin Yun's actions as they let out exclamations. Does this kid want to die? You want to use your bare hands to fight against my wolf claws? The old man was shocked in his heart. He used his powerful claws to grab it. Old Wolf's fingernails were like sharp daggers. If they were to be caught, their skin would definitely be lacerated. No one would wish for their body to be caught. Just as Qin Yun's palm was about to make contact with the wolf's claw, it suddenly whistled and exploded with a boom sound wave. The air waves that burst out carried the power of 10,000 horses, shaking Old Man Lang's arms to the point that they let out crisp cracking sounds. Ah! The old wolf cried out in pain. The bones in his arms and hands were broken. His thin body was also blown away by the blast. He seemed to have been blown away by a gust of wind, and he landed dozens of meters away from the stage. The pain in his arms made him slightly fearful. If it weren't for his rich experience and instinctively protecting his arms, they might have been destroyed. Old Man Lang took a deep breath of cold air. He still had lingering fear in his heart. He muttered to himself, I was too careless. This brat's instantaneous explosive power is really scary. Within the 10,000 horse palm, there was another martial technique that caused his inner energy to burst forth. What kind of martial technique is this? Qin Yun had accumulated 2 sets of inner elemental energy and fused them together to create an explosion. The power was indeed terrifying. Fortunately, his bone meridian had already stabilized and was able to withstand the explosion of inner qi. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to use it. Xiao Lang, who was in the luxurious suite, said in surprise, Old Man Wolf actually lost to someone at the 5th level of the martial body realm. Qi Shui coldly snorted, the masked man is really not simple. After he entered the top 100, he did not continue to challenge. What the hell is he doing? Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and a girl wearing a light blue dress with a ponytail walked in. She wore a mask, and her clear and beautiful eyes seemed to be filled with anger. The girl asked, Who is the masked man? You actually injured Old Wolf. Yume, he's a blacksmith in the Divine Inscription Palace. Yi Chunlei hurriedly said with a smile. Qin Feng, who had been drinking, immediately stood up and walked over. This masked girl is Xiao Yume. Qin Feng's drunken eyes suddenly lit up. He looked at the masked girl with a hearty smile and said, Yume, the masked man is just a blacksmith. If he dares to enter the top 10, I will definitely make him pay. Yi Chunlei was a little displeased. He said in a deep voice, That'll have to wait for him to fight. Even if he fights, it's not your turn to teach him a lesson. Qin Feng chuckled. That's right, I'm ranked 3rd, and you're ranked 4th. If he were to fight, he would indeed meet you first. But you still have to be careful, this guy knows the Han style. The one who was the most unhappy was Qi Shui, because Qin Feng and Yi Chunlei had never been jealous of her. Now that Xiao Yume arrived, it has become like this. Xiao Yuanmei seems to be used to it. She asked about the masked man's situation and left. Qi Shui said, Yuanmei seems to be very concerned about this masked man. Xiao Lang laughed. That masked man is going to be out of luck. Yuanmei wants to take him in as a follower. After Qin Yun returned to the Divine Inscription Palace, he entered the training room to cultivate. He had gained a lot from his battle with the old man today. He was able to use the Qi explosion technique and the 10,000 horse palm together. He thought back to the previous competition and thought to himself, Qin Gong is my shortcoming. It seems that I can only practice harder and use my inner force to run. This will at least increase my speed a little. Then, in the training room, he sprinted back and forth and began to practice running. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. Qin Yun was extremely puzzled because no one had come to challenge him in the past 2 days. The martial artists in the Hidden Dragon martial field were not stupid. They could tell that he was very strange, so they all skipped over him and went to challenge others. Suddenly, Yang Shiryu came out of her room and asked with a charming smile, How have the past 2 days been? How many matches did you fight? I only fought 1 match. Qin Yun told Yang Shiryu about the battle between him and the old man. After Yang Shiryu heard this, she took out 2 pages of paper and said with some pride, I have successfully changed the 6-style wind slayer technique into a hammer technique. I can also use my fist to execute it. Qin Yun, who was sitting on a stool, suddenly jumped up. He was extremely excited as he said with a smile, Teacher, you're really amazing. I thought it would take at least a month to complete it so quickly. Yang Shiryu's face was filled with arrogance as she said with a chuckle, You're underestimating me too much. This is just a modification of an existing martial skill. I have also combined a few other martial skills, so the progress is quite smooth. After saying that, she put on a serious expression and shouted, It's time for class. You have to be serious. Qin Yun hurriedly sat down and nodded. This hammer technique is called the 6-style forging dragon. The main point is similar to the 6-style wind slayer technique. It's mainly used in conjunction with the flame inner force. Following that, Yang Shiryu very seriously guided Qin Yun in learning the 6-style forging dragon. Qin Yun held the forging hammer and began swinging it in the training room. Yang Shiryu watched from the side. If she found anything lacking, she would improve it. After practicing for 2 days, he was able to use his inner force to execute it. It was equivalent to the small success realm. The main reason was that he had a very good grasp of the 6-style wind slayer technique, and the 6-style forging dragon technique was an improved version of the 6-style wind slayer technique. Furthermore, he had Yang Shiryu to guide him from the side. Qin Yun and Yang Shiryu began training in the training room. After more than 2 hours, he nodded his head in satisfaction. The effect of using fists will be a little weaker, but it's not a problem. In order to test the might of this hammer technique, he specially forged a piece of low-grade bone steel. In the past, it would have taken him 6 hours to complete. Now, it only took him 2 hours, cutting the time by half. Qin Yun praised, Teacher, with your hammer technique, it will be even more convenient for me to forge artifacts in the future. Yang Shiryu patted his head and said with a sweet smile, When you can forge a spirit artifact, I'll let you make one for me. No problem. Qin Yun patted his chest and said with a smile. Yang Shiryu took out a towel and helped him wipe his sweat. She said softly, Go and rest first, then fight again. Don't worry too much about number 1. Ensuring your own body is the most important thing. Remember that you still have the identity of an inscription master. Qin Yun understood the meaning behind Yang Shiryu's words. She was worried that she would use that method to torture him like she did to Yan Qingyu. Chapter 60. The princess's invitation. Qin Yun had a good night's sleep. When he woke up, he saw a note on the table in the hall. It was left behind by Yang Shiryu. She said that she had gone to the Hidden Dragon Marshall Field. After he finished reading the note, his fighting spirit rose as he said firmly, "It's time to enter the top 10. I must do my best to get first place. Only then can I obtain the profound heart grass and quickly cultivate the Heart Sutra. Teacher can't protect me forever. Furthermore, something must have happened to her and she might leave me very soon." Qin Yun could tell that ever since Yang Shi returned from the Tianxian martial school, she had a heavy heart. However, she was trying her best to hide it. He quickly rushed to the Hidden Dragon Martial Field. After arriving, he immediately issued a challenge. For the past few days, he hadn't made any movements. It was very intriguing. Now, the martial artist with the code name, Dragon Slayer, had finally issued another challenge. This matter quickly spread. Qin Yun stood below a dueling platform, waiting for his opponent to arrive. Everyone watched from the side, not daring to approach. It was as if they were frightened by the thick fighting intent from his body. At this moment, the old man he had defeated earlier walked over. "Sir, this is my young master's invitation." Old Man Wolf handed Qin Yun a letter with a respectful expression. Qin Yun was alarmed. The old man with extraordinary strength actually had a master. After he opened the letter, he saw a few lines of extremely beautiful words. The main content was that because his strength was outstanding, he hoped to hire him as a bodyguard, a thug or something. The reward was very generous. The person who wrote this letter was Xiao Yume. He looked at the old man and said in a hoarse voice, "I appreciate your young master's intentions." Xiao Yume was already at the 6th level of the martial body realm at such a young age. At this moment, she was also recruiting talents, recruiting troops and expanding her power. Many people were willing to follow her, but Qin Yun rejected her. This surprised the old man. He said, "Please consider it carefully. This is a rare opportunity." Qin Yun only nodded and did not say anything else. Not long after the old man left, a handsome white-clothed youth walked over. He had an oppressive and cold aura. The person who came was the second prince of Tianqin, Qin Feng. Qin Yun recognized Qin Feng at a glance. "You read that letter. Why didn't you agree to her request? Quickly agree to her." As soon as Qin Feng arrived, his voice was filled with anger, releasing a weak killing intent. "Who do you think you are? Why would I agree to such a stupid thing?" Qin Yun was not afraid at all as he spoke in a low and hoarse voice. Qin Feng was usually high and mighty. Even people of the same status as him would not dare to treat him with such an attitude. He was immediately infuriated. He raised his hand and slapped Qin Yun's mask. Qin Yun suddenly raised his hand and bit at Qin Feng's wrist like a wolf. Then, he quickly circulated a very strong flame inner force. Qin Feng was shocked. He did not expect his opponent's internal energy to be so strong. He only felt a bone-piercing burning sensation coming from his wrist, and just as he was about to stop, an elder's voice was full of anger. It suddenly sounded, blasting them back. "He was the one who made the first move," Qin Yun said in a low voice. The old man's voice was cold. He looked at Qin Feng and said coldly, "Qin Feng has violated the rules. He will be demoted from 3rd to 4th place." Qin Feng was infuriated, but he did not dare to say anything. His wrist was emitting smoke. This was the spot that Qin Yun had grabbed. It was already burning red, as though it was cooked. He had suffered a great loss. After gritting his teeth, he glared at Qin Yun and left in anger. Everyone was alarmed when they saw this. They never expected the masked man to be so daring. He dared to offend the second prince, Qin Feng, in the Tianqin Empire. The warrior that Qin Yun had challenged had also arrived. Although his strength was not bad, he was much weaker than Qin Yun, who had trained hard for a few days. He had only used the 10,000 horse palm to defeat his opponent. Qin Yun wins, ranked 95th. A person at the 5th level of the martial body realm had risen by 5 places in one go. Furthermore, there was no pressure at all, causing many people at the 6th level of the martial body realm to be unable to catch up. Now, even more people wanted to know his identity. After winning a match, he continued to challenge. Qin Yun wins. Rank 90. Qin Yun, 85th. Qin Yun fought 7 or 8 matches a day and rose to 60th place. This speed was so fast that it left people speechless. Even in the middle of the night, he continued to challenge, as if he wanted to rush to the top 10 in one go. Qin Feng and company were in the VIP lounge. As they watched Qin Yun fight his way up, they felt disdain in their hearts. This was because in their eyes, anyone outside the top 10 was trash. It was normal for them to be defeated. This bastard, I must teach him a lesson. Qin Feng looked at the wound on his wrist. Not only had he suffered a loss, he had also lost face. Seeing that you're usually so calm, you actually made a move, Yi Chunlei said with a smile. He was extremely happy. Qin Feng had been demoted to 3rd place because of the violation of the rules. Yi Chunlei, who was ranked 4th, did not even need to fight to rise to 3rd place. Qin Feng snorted. Who told him to reject Yu Mei? Yu Mei is also very angry because of this. I just want to teach him a lesson on behalf of Yu Mei. Qi Shui suddenly said, I'm going to challenge Qi Milan. I want to rise to 6th place. At this moment, she was ranked 7th and in the top 10, she could be considered to be at the back. The people in the Hidden Dragon martial field quickly received the news that Qi Shui, who was ranked 7th, wanted to challenge the 6th Qi Milan. After such a long time, the young martial artists in the top 10 finally made a move. This caused the entire Hidden Dragon martial field to suddenly boil with excitement. Furthermore, this was a battle between 2 women. Qin Yun won another match and walked down the dueling platform. When he heard the news, he thought to himself, Qi Shui, Qi Milan, they are all from the state of Tianqi. They should not be born from the same mother. Their relationship is definitely not harmonious. He repeated the words, Qi Milan, in his heart and suddenly felt that they were very familiar. Could it be her? When Qin Yun was young, he had followed the emperor to visit other countries and had been to the Tianqi Empire. At that time, he was only a few years old. After going to the Tianqi Empire, the person who left the deepest impression on him was Qi Milan. The main reason was that Qi Milan was very cute, kind, and very likable. At that time, Qin Yun happened to be sick and Qi Milan was very concerned about him. He didn't know if it was like his childhood. After all, the world was cold and the human heart was unpredictable. The match between Qi Shui and Qi Milan was about to begin. The two of them had already arrived at the dueling platform. Qi Shui was dressed in a bright red outfit. Although she was beautiful, she lacked a bit of spirituality. In Qin Yun's eyes, her looks were only average. Now, he knew that the princess of Tianqi who had bickered with Meng Failing in the Divine Inscription Palace was Qi Shui. Qi Milan was dressed in tight clothes. Her pink and white clothes made her look simple and elegant. She was as beautiful as a jade from a small family. Her face was round, her eyes were clear, and she was pure. She was the kind of little sister that he wanted to dote on the moment he saw her. Chapter 61. Mei Lin Qi. If there was a martial arts competition between the top 10, it would be held on the largest main stage, which was the one in the middle of the Hidden Dragon martial field. Qin Yun was below the first dueling platform as he stared at Qi Milan's exquisite and cute little face. He recalled many childhood memories that he had almost forgotten. Only when his waist was poked by someone did he come back to his senses. It's... He saw a masked person, but he still recognized that it was Yang Shiryu. What are you looking at? Yang Shiryu chuckled in a low voice. She wore a white mask, white clothes, and a bamboo hat on her head. She hid herself extremely well. Qin Yun only smiled and did not say a word. There were people all around, so it was not convenient to speak. After a referee shouted "Begin!" the duel between the two princesses of the state of Tianqi officially began. Qi Shue's first move was very vicious. She either grabbed his face or kicked his groin. Such a vicious move made many people secretly frown. Qin Yun was alarmed when he saw this. He felt that the hatred of killing his father was nothing more than this. Furthermore, they were all Princess Tianqi. Only he could deeply understand that this was a very normal thing in the imperial clan. If he did not have the 9-Sun divine spirit to change the situation, he might have already died tragically. Qi Meiyan bit her lower lip as she continuously dodged Qi Shue's attacks. Her cute little face was filled with resentment. Qi Shue was her elder sister, yet she used such a vicious martial skill to attack her. Qi Meiyan's martial skills are being suppressed everywhere. The martial skills that Qi Shue has learned are all meant to restrain her. Yang Shiryu also felt indignant and snorted. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Qi Meiyan's mother is a palace maid and Princess Qi Shue's mother is the princess. Qi Meiyan, this lowly girl, is far inferior to Princess Qi Shue. So Qi Meiyan is the daughter of a stinky servant. Mother naturally doesn't have any power. No wonder her martial skills are so clumsy. Looks like Qi Shue is going to win." The people who spoke were all disciples of famous sects in Tianqi. Qin Yun did not need to ask around to tell that they were saying those words to please Qi Shue. Even if she was a princess, if her mother was a palace maid, her status in the palace would be very low. Moreover, Qi Meiyan's mother had died a long time ago. It was very rare for her to grow up in that kind of environment. When Qi Meilan heard so many people talking about her mother, her mood was extremely bad. Furthermore, facing Qi Shue's vicious attack, she could only admit defeat. However, just as she shouted out a word, she saw Qi Shue's palm strike out, releasing two extremely terrifying streams of ice and snow inner strength. Like two merciless, ice-cold swords, they pierced into Qi Meilan's body. Qi Meilan had already admitted defeat, so she did not have any defense at all. She did not expect Qi Shue to be so vicious and actually want to kill her. When everyone saw this cute and innocent young girl being sent flying by the ruthless ice and snow inner strength, they could only sigh inwardly. This was a battle within the imperial clan, and no one dared to interfere. Otherwise, they would only offend the nobles. Qin Yun was infuriated. He leaped up and caught Qi Meiyan, who had flown out of the battling platform. At the same time, he channeled a warm stream of purple-gold fire inner force over to help Qi Meiyan heal her injuries. Qi Shue had already flown down the battling platform. From afar, she struck out with her palm at Qi Meiyan, releasing a burst of inner strength. Qin Yun hurriedly released a ball of explosive inner force. After the inner force was shattered by Qi Shue's inner strength, it turned into a flame that enveloped Qi Shue, burning her into a sorry state. She could only leave hatefully. If this continued, she would be violating the rules. Qi Meilan had been paying close attention to the masked man because the look in his eyes was very familiar. She was in Qin Yun's embrace as she looked at Qin Yun's eyes up close. She could not help but feel delighted as she felt Qin Yun's warm inner strength. "It's you, Brother Yun," Qi Meilan said softly before closing her eyes and fainting. After Qin Yun landed on the ground with Qi Meiyan in his arms, he hurriedly rushed out of the hidden dragon martial field and returned to the divine inscription palace. Yang Shiryu also returned. "I will take good care of her. Hurry up and enter the top 10. Teach that slut Qi Shue a lesson." Yang Shiryu was filled with rage when she saw the delicate and lovely Qi Meiyan being injured. Qin Yun's expression was gloomy as he nodded. His fists were clenched so tightly that they creaked. In the hidden dragon martial field, everyone was discussing the relationship between the masked man and Qi Meiyan. When Qin Yun arrived, he heard many rumors and felt even more infuriated. This was because Qi Shui had sent people to spread it in order to smear Qi Meilian's image. When everyone saw the masked man arrive, they immediately shut their mouths and stopped talking. They were worried that if they met the masked man on the stage, they would be attacked by him with all their might. The moment Qin Yun arrived, he immediately issued a challenge. The person he challenged was a disciple from the Tian Qi Empire. His name was Du Han, and he was a 20-year-old man. He remembered that in order to win Qi Shui's appreciation, Du Han had said all sorts of slanderous words about Qi Meilian below the battling platform. Du Han stepped onto the stage and said with a sneer, "Masked man, what is your relationship with that little slut Qi Meilian? I must take off your mask." The referee did not wait for him to finish before shouting, "Begin?" Qin Yun's fists gathered internal energy as he charged in front of Du Han in an instant. Trash! Qin Yun roared angrily as he punched out with both fists. In an instant, he punched out more than 10 times, causing sparks to fly. In the blink of an eye, Du Han had been beaten beyond recognition by this explosive punch. His entire body was severely burned and his elemental energy had also been scattered. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. Du Han was still a fine person a moment ago, but in the blink of an eye, he was crippled. Everyone knew that this was the angry attack of the masked man. After Du Han was carried down, Qin Yun immediately issued a challenge, specifically choosing the disciples of the aristocratic families of the Tian Qi Empire. Once challenged, one had to go on stage. If one didn't want to fight, then one had to admit defeat immediately after going on stage. If one didn't go on stage, they would be considered to have given up and lost their qualifications. After being challenged by Qin Yun, the disciples of the aristocratic families of the Tian Qi Empire didn't even have the time to say the word, "admit defeat," before they were crippled and beaten to death by Qin Yun. More than 10 noble disciples of Tian Qi Empire had been crippled by Qin Yun in a single day. They couldn't even climb down the dueling platform. This was a huge blow to the younger generation of the Tian Qi Empire. These disciples of Tian Qi Empire were all people who had previously insulted Qi Meilian. This caused the disciples of Tian Qi Empire to directly give up when they met him. They would rather withdraw than face Qin Yun. Qi Shui was infuriated when she saw this. That was because those disciples of Tian Qi Empire were all targets of her recruitment. Now, because of her, all of them had been crippled. A few days later, Qin Yun, who was filled with rage, challenged day and night crazily. Finally, he reached 11th place. Today, he challenged the person ranked 10th. Finally, he was going to enter the top 10. The person ranked 10th was a disciple of the Tian Shao Empire's Lin family. His name was Lin Yang. Although Qin Yun was anonymous, his code name, Dragon Slayer, could be said to be famous throughout the entire imperial city. This was because he had defeated too many famous 6th-level martial body cultivators. At this moment, Qin Yun walked onto the largest dueling platform and attracted everyone's attention. The masked man at the 5th level of the martial body realm had defeated many people at the 6th level of the martial body realm. He had never been defeated before. This was inconceivable. Many people realized that other than being unable to use inner strength, the strength of the masked man's inner strength was already comparable to the 6th level of the martial body realm. In such a situation, one would usually possess a high-grade martial spirit, or at least a platinum martial spirit. Lin Yang walked onto the battling platform. He wore a dark blue outfit and his long and thin face was filled with a relaxed expression. Chapter 62. Concealed weapon. In the past few days, Qin Yun had not used the 6th-style forging dragon. The main reason was that the previous opponents were too weak, while Lin Yang was very strong. He felt that this time it was time to use the 6th-style forging dragon. "Begin!" the referee shouted. Although Lin Yang is thin and small, his movement is very vigorous. His qigong is very good. In an instant, he leaped dozens of meters and began his attack. The martial skill he used was a finger technique. After pointing out with his finger, he would shoot out a needle-like inner force that had a very strong penetrating power. If he was hit by these finger energies, he would definitely be severely injured. Lin Yang struck out with more than 10 finger forces that pierced towards Qin Yun. They were transparent and colorless, unable to be seen with the naked eye. Qin Yun's mental strength was slightly stronger, so he could sense the transparent and powerful finger force. This finger technique is truly powerful. It's equivalent to using a concealed weapon. Qin Yun was forced to dodge the rain-like finger force. He was unable to approach Lin Yang at all. The people below the stage could not see the transparent finger power. They could only see Qin Yun running around randomly on the stage. Those who were familiar with Lin Yang knew that this was Lin Yang's most beautiful move, so they didn't find it strange. Instead, they were very surprised that someone could avoid it so many times. Qin Yun quickly thought of a way to deal with it. He hurriedly circulated his vibrating inner force and allowed it to flow through his skin and muscles. With the vibration internal force protecting his body, he no longer dodged Lin Yang's finger force and rushed forward. When Lin Yang saw that Qin Yun was no longer dodging, he was slightly alarmed. He immediately released his inner strength. He had just stepped into the 6th level of the martial body realm and was not too familiar with inner strength. Therefore, he would not easily use it, and right now was a great opportunity. The finger force condensed from inner strength was much stronger than the inner strength from before. Lin Yang's 10 fingers moved and the veins on the back of his hands bulged. He urged his inner strength to pour into his hands and released it from his 10 fingers. It condensed into needles and shot out rapidly. It's coming. When Qin Yun sensed the approaching force of the array finger, he released his vibration inner force to the limit. Hoo. When the finger force struck Qin Yun's body, it was dispersed by the vibrating inner force, forming a gust of wind that dissipated. While Lin Yang was alarmed, Qin Yun had already arrived. 10,000 horse palm, mountain quaking style, these 2 moves were executed consecutively, and the wind from the palms howled. The 10,000 horse palm force, with the momentum of shaking a mountain, turned into a wave of qi, which hit Lin Yang a few meters away and made him vomit blood and fly backward. After Lin Yang fell to the ground, he suddenly jumped up. When he saw Qin Yun rushing over, he anxiously took out a black cloth belt from his bosom. His face was filled with viciousness. With a forceful fling of the cloth belt, a long needle with a cold glint shot out. Concealed weapons. This was a real hidden weapon, and this kind of hidden weapon usually contained poison. When Qin Yun saw this, he punched out with both fists and used the thunder tremor style of the 6-style forging dragon. His fists were like hammers as he punched out. His internal energy suddenly exploded, forming a shock wave that sent the poisonous needles flying. He broke the rules. Qin Yun shouted anxiously. Weapons can be used in a martial arts competition. Concealed weapons are also a type of weapon, the referee said. The current referee was not the same as before. To be able to use weapons, the hidden dragon martial field immediately erupted into a heated discussion. They carefully recalled the rules, and indeed, there was no rule that prohibited the use of weapons. However, everyone thought that this kind of martial arts competition did not allow the use of weapons. The organizers had never mentioned it, and they did not know what their intentions were. When Lin Yang heard this, he took out 2 sharp short blades from his back and quickly jumped to Qin Yun's side. He brandished his blades and slashed forward. His face was filled with pride. With a weapon in close combat, Qin Yun, who was proficient in close combat, was no match for him. Lin Yang, if you kill him, the Tian Shao Empire will reward you handsomely. From the VIP suite on the second floor, Xiao Lang's cold voice suddenly came out. When Lin Yang heard this, he attacked Qin Yun even more crazily. Everyone secretly took a deep breath. If the masked man did not admit defeat, he would be killed. However, no one understood why Xiao Lang, the second prince of the Tian Shao Empire, wanted to kill the mysterious masked man. Lin Yang used 2 sabers and gained the upper hand. In order to defeat Qin Yun faster, he took out 2 fire talismans from his bosom and threw them at Qin Yun. With a flash of the fire talisman, a burst of flames surged out and enveloped Qin Yun. What Qin Yun was least afraid of was fire. Furthermore, Lin Yang was using a low-grade fire talisman. When the flames were about to burn out, Lin Yang immediately rushed in, thinking that Qin Yun had been burned by the flames. Suddenly, a figure flew out from the flames. Qin Yun was not injured. Furthermore, he held a ghost-head saber in his hand as he viciously slashed down at Lin Yang, who was charging at him. With a swoosh, the saber descended and the saber chi that was slashed out was like a wave, forming a ball of air that struck Lin Yang's body. Boom! The ball of air was blasted apart and Lin Yang was sent flying by the shockwave. His body was covered in wounds and both of his hands that were holding the saber had been cut off. He was sent flying off the battling platform, turning into a bloody man. His skin and flesh were lacerated. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the masked man with the ghost-head saber in shock. This kind of strength was too terrifying. Everyone sighed. Lin Yang, who was ranked 10th, had actually lost so miserably that he could no longer fight. The most surprising thing was that the masked man had actually taken out a large ghost-head saber. He must have a storage spirit artifact on him. But he is only at the 5th level martial body realm, yet he has such a precious item. What is the background of this masked man? Everyone was guessing. Storage spirit artifacts were rare and expensive. Even for an inscription master like Master Wei, it would take him 3 to 5 years to create one. Usually they would be bought by the older generation. Xiao Lang and the others in the VIP suite were also extremely jealous because they all wanted their own storage spirit artifact. I never thought that I would really be able to use weapons and talismans. The rules didn't say that pet beasts are not allowed. Xiao Lang looked coldly at the masked Qin Yun and clenched his fists tightly. Lin Yang was a popular person by his side, but he had been beaten up so miserably. He was very unhappy in his heart, as if he had been slapped in the face. The match between Lin Yang and Qin Yun allowed many people to know that they could use weapons. Not long after, the crisp sound of weapons colliding could be heard from many battling platforms in the incomparably spacious Hidden Dragon martial field. Not long after the match between Qin Yun and Lin Yang ended, another shocking piece of news came. Meng Feiling, who was ranked 5th, challenged Qin Feng, who was ranked 4th. The moment the news spread, many people were filled with anticipation. Qin Feng quickly came to accept the challenge. He had already appeared on stage number 1, wearing a mighty silver armor. Meng Feiling, on the other hand, was wearing a set of tight white clothes. She had a teasing smile on her face, as if she was not afraid of Qin Feng at all. Meng Feiling, Qin Feng, begin now, the referee shouted. What was even more unexpected was that Qin Feng had already admitted defeat at the very beginning. As a result, his ranking dropped to 5th place. Immediately after, Qi Shui, who was ranked 6th, went to challenge Qin Feng. Qin Feng admitted defeat at the very beginning, causing his ranking to drop to 6th place. The 7th place was originally Qi Meiyan, but because of her injuries, she was unable to accept the challenge and had already announced her withdrawal. Qin Yun, who had just entered the 10th place, rose to 9th place because of Qi Meiyan's withdrawal. Qin Feng was now 6th. The two of them were getting closer and closer. Many people could guess that the reason why Qin Feng admitted defeat twice in a row, causing his ranking to drop rapidly, was so that he could quickly face Qin Yun. Indeed, when Qin Yun challenged the 8th-ranked Yu Chu and the 7th-ranked Long Yaoyu, the two of them immediately admitted defeat. Chapter 63. Jade Wolf soared after Qin Yun rose to 7th place. He immediately issued a challenge to the 6th place, Qin Feng. However, Qin Feng did not immediately accept the challenge. As for Meng Feiling, who was ranked 4th, she also went to challenge the 3rd place, Yi Chunlei. The first main martial stage was surrounded by many people because the duel between Yi Chunlei and Meng Feiling was about to begin. Meng Feiling's expression was cold as she slowly floated onto the martial stage. She wore a white dress and held a black whip in her hand as she stood there valiantly. Her eyes were originally filled with coquettishness, but when she saw Yi Chunlei arrive, they became as sharp as an eagle's. Her martial spirit was the Platinum Eagle martial spirit, which was one level higher than Yi Chunlei's Golden Thunder Axe martial spirit. This was also the reason why she dared to challenge Yi Chunlei. Yi Chunlei was wearing a golden axe in his hand. His strong upper body was bare and his bulging muscles were filled with explosive power. It was extremely terrifying. Qin Yun was also watching seriously, wanting to see Meng Feiling's strength. Demoness Meng, don't think that we don't know that you secretly killed our Yi family's Thunderwolf. Today we will make you pay the price. Yi Chunlei roared, his voice rumbling like thunder. Qin Yun immediately recalled that when he met Meng Feiling, he had seen her leading a group of people to hunt demon beasts. It was actually the Yi family's beast pet. Yi Chunlei was nearly 2 meters tall and had a huge body. His muscles were ferocious and his entire body flickered with electricity. The huge axe in his hand emitted golden lightning bolt. After he roared, he brandished his axe and charged at Meng Feiling like a mad bull. Although Yi Chunlei was big, his speed was not slow at all. He was actually faster than Lin Yang from before. He used his movement technique and his footwork became extremely nimble. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Before Yi Chunlei could even get close to Meng Feiling, the huge axe in his hand slashed a few times, sending out several streams of energy that carried golden lightning. It was like a net that spread out, enveloping a large area. Meng Feiling immediately leaped more than 20 meters into the air and hovered there. After she dodged Yi Chunlei's attack, she lashed out with the whip in her hand. With a "paw" sound, her inner strength was flung out through the whip and landed on Yi Chunlei's body, causing him to let out a furious roar. She nimbly flew around in the air like a bird, causing many people to be extremely envious. She had the eagle martial spirit, and by cultivating a special movement technique, she could fly early. Otherwise, she would need to be at the 8th or 9th level of the martial body to be able to use her powerful inner force to float her body. Yi Chunlei's defense was extremely strong. His attacks were fierce, and his speed was not slow either. However, he had met Meng Feiling who could fly. It was difficult for him to hit someone who could fly on the ground, so he could only watch helplessly. Meng Feiling was a platinum martial spirit and the inner strength she condensed was very strong. Furthermore, her attacks were extremely agile. She lashed out in the air, catching Yi Chunlei off guard. Qin Yun finally understood why Xiao Lang would call Meng Feiling a demoness. This kind of fighting style was indeed very maddening. Not long after, Yi Chunlei's body was covered with ghastly whip marks. Not only were his injuries severe on the surface, but his internal injuries were also not light. "Demoness, I'll kill you!" Yi Chunlei's roar was like a thunderclap. What was funny was that the huge axe in his hand had already been whipped off the battling platform by Meng Feiling. Yi Chunlei punched out at Meng Feiling who was in the air. The violent lightning inner strength randomly flew into the air, but was all dodged by Meng Feiling. Pa pa pa! Meng Feiling's whip struck out fiercely, using her strongest inner strength. When it struck Yi Chunlei's body, waves of air surged and blood splattered everywhere. I admit defeat." After Yi Chunlei finished speaking, he angrily walked down the dueling platform. The injuries on his body were shocking. From the very beginning, everyone could roughly tell who would win and who would lose, so they were not surprised. Even if they were surprised, it was because of Meng Feiling's flying technique. As a result, Meng Feiling was ranked third. Above her were Xiao Lang and Xiao Yuemei. They were both very strong, so she did not continue fighting. If he was seriously injured in the martial arts competition, he wouldn't even be able to maintain his third place. The top three were all very strong, so it would be very difficult for the people below to go up. On the other hand, Yi Chunlei was seriously injured. Even if he recovered, he could only barely maintain his ranking. As long as he entered the top 10, even if he couldn't get first place, the prizes he would receive would still be pretty good. Next up, the most anticipated thing was the duel between Dragon Slaying and Qin Feng. Qin Feng was the second prince of the Tianqin Empire, and was also publicly recognized as the second strongest prince of the Tianqin Empire. The strongest was the crown prince, Qin Zhengfeng, and the third was Qin Yun. Qin Yun waited patiently in the dueling arena for Qin Feng to accept the challenge. While he was waiting, a shocking piece of news suddenly came. It was that the Crown Prince of Tianqin would be coming to watch Qin Feng's martial arts competition. The Crown Prince, Qin Zhengfeng, possessed a rare 6 meridians and had been accepted by the Tianxian Martial School a long time ago. Now, he had actually returned from the Tianxian Martial School. It was said that he had already stepped into the 7th level martial body realm. Qin Zhengfeng and Qin Feng's mother were cousins, and they had an extremely good relationship. Therefore, Qin Zhengfeng and Qin Feng's relationship was not bad. Just as the news spread, someone shouted, "The Crown Prince of Tianqin is here." Qin Yun stood on the battling platform and saw many people walking in from the other side of the door. The person walking at the very front was wearing a purple gold jade crown, a golden cloak, and a golden red armor. He looked extremely arrogant and radiated a sharp aura. This was Qin Zhengfeng, the Crown Prince of Tianqin. When Qin Yun saw Qin Zhengfeng, he was infuriated. One of the spirit veins that had been extracted from him was in Qin Zhengfeng's body. Qin Zhengfeng was the Crown Prince, and was about to be engaged to Xiao Yuelan. His martial talent was number 1 in Tianqin, and he was fully deserving of being the future emperor of Tianqin. Therefore, many of the disciples of the famous sects in the Tianqin Empire came forward to greet him when they saw him arrive. In terms of talent, Qin Zhengfeng was slightly inferior to Xiao Yuelan. However, there was no need to worry. After all, the Tianxiao Empire had already decided on the marriage. There definitely wouldn't be any mistakes. As soon as Qin Zhengfeng arrived, someone brought over a luxurious chair for him to sit on. He wanted to watch the battle from below the main battling platform. Xiao Lang and the others who were in the VIP room also walked down and chatted with Qin Zhengfeng. Only Xiao Yuemei and Meng Feiling did not come. Qin Zhengfeng smiled and pulled out his sharp sword from its scabbard, producing a crisp sword cry. One look was enough to tell that this was a good sword, a spirit artifact. He handed the sword to Qin Feng and said with a smile, "Second brother, this sword is called the Jade Wolf Sword. It's the prize I obtained from the Tianxian Martial School. It's a low-grade spirit artifact and is ranked 30th on the Xian level Martial School's sword list. I'll lend it to you now." Qin Feng revealed a look of pleasant surprise. After receiving the Jade Wolf Sword, he hurriedly thanked him. This was a low-grade spirit weapon, and it was also very famous. It could unleash an even stronger power during a martial arts competition. Seeing Qin Feng obtain the Jade Wolf Sword, everyone was secretly envious. A famous low-grade spirit weapon was extremely rare. One had to know that many disciples of famous sects only had a half-spirit weapon. This is the first spirit weapon to appear in the Hidden Dragon martial arts competition. This sword is really beautiful. The masked man is going to be out of luck. Haha, he's really unlucky. Previously, he was so arrogant to provoke Qin Feng. Now that Qin Feng has a spirit artifact, let's see how he can resist? Although he has a storage spirit artifact, it can't be used in martial arts, so it's not of much use. Qin Jingfeng smiled faintly. Royal brother, with the help of this sword, you will definitely be able to take first place on the hidden dragon list. Chapter 64. Thunder Roar. Qin Feng had a spirit artifact. Not only did Qin Yun feel pressured, Xiao Lang also felt pressured. If Qin Feng were to continue fighting, he, Xiao Lang, would eventually have to face Qin Feng. Although Xiao Lang was the second prince of Sky Howl, he did not have a spirit artifact. In such a large power, spirit artifacts had to be fought for by oneself. On the battling platform, Qin Feng's eyes were filled with anger. His wrist had been injured by Qin Yun, and he had suffered a great loss. In order to take revenge, he did not hesitate to let his ranking drop. Furthermore, he wanted to obtain Xiao Yuemei's appreciation. Qin Feng lightly shook the Jade Wolf sword, producing a light sword hum. The spirit inscriptions on the sword's body flickered with a white light and could be seen clearly. From the complexity of the spirit inscriptions, they were mid-grade spirit inscriptions. He looked at Qin Yun's ice-cold black mask and said coldly, "I want to break your mask and see what you have to hide. Begin." The referee shouted. At the start of the match, Qin Yun was the first to attack. He used the ghost head saber to slash out. Flame inner force surged into the saber, causing the blade to turn red and the heat to be oppressive. Swoosh! The ghost head saber slashed down, producing a whistling sound as it pierced through the air. The saber chi that shot out roared again and again. Such a head-on slash was imposing and without any hesitation, causing everyone to cheer loudly. Qin Feng's face was filled with disdain. His Snow Wind martial spirit could release Snow Wind inner force. When it was injected into the Jade Wolf sword, it could release a bone-piercing blizzard. He gently waved his sword to meet the incoming scorching saber chi. Everyone held their breath and stared. Bang! The sword and saber clashed, ice and fire clashed, and the battling platform was instantly filled with ice and fire. The huge battling platform was enveloped in cold air, forming a layer of frost. The mist dissipated and Qin Yun was forced back dozens of meters. His entire body was covered in ice and snow and the ghost head saber was covered in a thick layer of frost. It had to be said that Qin Feng was still the strongest in terms of inner force. After all, he was at the 6th level martial body realm. Furthermore, his inner force had increased by a lot through the Jade Wolf sword. This was the power of a spirit weapon. Crack! The ice on the ghost head saber suddenly cracked, and then the blade shattered along with the ice and fell to the ground. One had to know that the ghost head saber was also a half-spirit weapon, yet it had turned into many small pieces. When the people below the stage saw this, they immediately let out exclamations of surprise, wishing that they could also have such a spiritual sword. This is the power of the Jade Wolf sword. As expected of a spiritual weapon. If only I had one. That was obtained by the Tianqin Crown Prince himself. If he wanted to buy this kind of famous sword, he would need to prepare at least 1,000,000 crystal coins. Other than being envious, everyone could only be envious. Qin Jingfeng enjoyed the envy of others. He laughed loudly and shouted, "Royal brother, take this opportunity to kill him now." Qin Feng immediately flew over. With a wave of his hand, a snowy sword beam enveloped Qin Yun, forcing him to dodge repeatedly. Now that Qin Yun had lost his weapon, the situation became clear. Everyone believed that the outcome was already decided. They just wanted to see how Qin Yun would lose. Qin Jingfeng smiled proudly and said, "Everyone, watch carefully. My second brother is preparing to use our Tianqin's most powerful sword technique, the Qin Spirit Sword Technique. This is a high-grade spirit-level martial art. High-grade spirit-level sword techniques were very rare, but there were quite a few fist techniques or leg technique. Weapon-type martial techniques, especially sword techniques, were extremely rare. After Qin Feng used the Qin Spirit Sword Technique, his entire body suddenly became agile. Whether it was his speed or inner force, they had all increased by a lot. Hua! With a thrust of his sword, the sword hummed like a wolf. Light and shadows flew everywhere as the wind and snow howled. It could be said that he had used the Jade Wolf Sword and the Qin Spirit Sword Technique to the extreme. Even Qin Jingfeng praised him loudly. Many of the seniors below the stage also cheered. Qin Yun was enveloped by the snowstorm of sword shadows. It was impossible to dodge such an attack. Qin Feng continuously used the Qin Spirit Sword Technique, turning the dueling platform into a world of ice and snow. It was difficult to see the situation inside. The outcome has been decided. Xiao Lang smiled slightly. Qin Feng is indeed powerful. If I were to fight with him, I wonder what my chances of winning are. Brother Xiao, you don't have to be too modest. The masked man was only at the 5th level martial body realm. Furthermore, his martial skills were ordinary and he did not have a good half-spirit artifact. Naturally, he was suppressed. As for you, you are one of the best in the 6th level martial body realm. The martial skills of your Tian Shao imperial family are the best in our 3 countries. Qin Jingfeng chuckled. I am looking forward to your match with my royal brother. Just as he finished speaking, the crisp sound of weapons colliding could be heard from the battling platform. Crash! The snowstorm that enveloped the battling platform was torn apart by a wave of heat. The frost on the ground quickly melted. Qin Yun held a flaming forging hammer in his hand as he blocked the fatal sword strike that was aimed at his throat. The masked man actually had a weapon. It was a forging hammer. To be able to block such a powerful strike, it could be seen that the forging hammer was not an ordinary item. It was a forging hammer forged by Qin Yun using low-grade bone steel. Its strength was in no way inferior to the Jade Wolf Sword. When Xiao Lang saw that the masked man had not been defeated, he was secretly delighted. He said, "The masked man is a blacksmith from the Divine Inscription Palace. It's not surprising that he has a pretty good forging hammer." Qin Yun swung the forging hammer fiercely. Like a thunderclap, the hammer smashed down, causing a thunderous explosion. With a single glance, one could tell that this was a high-grade hammer technique. The 6th-style forging dragon was modified from the high-grade spirit-level wind slasher art. It could also be considered a high-grade spirit-level martial art. It was in no way inferior to Qin Ling's sword technique. Qin Feng was already shocked by the thunderous aura. While he was alarmed, he instinctively swung his sword to block. Boom! When the forging hammer landed on the Jade Wolf Sword's blade, a large amount of sparks flew out. It was as if it was forging red iron. The sound of the hammer striking was even more muffled like thunder. Qin Feng's hand that was holding the sword was in pain from the impact. He was shocked to the extreme. He had never heard of such a ferocious hammer technique. This was the thunderclap style, the first style of the forging dragon. In order to conceal his vibration martial spirit, Qin Yun did not use his vibration inner force. He only borrowed the inner force of his second inner yuan. With his vigorous inner force, it was enough to display this move to its fullest. Forging Dragon's second style, Roar. The second strike was like a raging thunder roaring with a majestic aura. The complicated alchemy patterns at the bottom of the forging hammer were even more dazzling and scorching. Boom! A burst of flames splashed out like a blossoming spark. The Jade Wolf Sword was actually bent. Seeing this scene, Qin Jingfeng's expression suddenly changed. Everyone was as shocked as stone statues. The bent part of the Jade Wolf Sword was slightly red, as if it had been burned red. Thunderclap style. Qin Yun swung his hammer again. In his panic, Qin Feng could only use the slightly bent Jade Wolf sword to block. Boom! Another thunderous roar that shook the souls of people erupted. After the forging hammer fell, it created even more sparks. The Jade Wolf sword was completely broken, and the broken part was burned red. After the forging hammer in Qin Yun's hand broke the sword, it struck straight at Qin Feng's chest. After Qin Feng's chest was hit, he screamed loudly. A smoking brand appeared on his chest, and his clothes were set ablaze. That's an alchemy mark. Is it the kind of spirit inscription that can absorb fire inner force and double the heat? That's a half-spirit artifact forging hammer. It has the inner force to forge a low-grade spirit artifact. The alchemy inscriptions are too terrifying. Chapter 65. Animal Skin Spirit Talisman. Don't be arrogant. When Qin Jingfeng saw that his Jade Wolf sword had been broken, he was infuriated. His expression became gloomy and frightening. He looked very much like the vicious queen. He immediately leaped up and punched Qin Yun. All of this happened so fast that the referee couldn't stop it in time. Qin Jingfeng's fist force attacked, causing the stone bricks on the battling platform to shatter. When Qin Yun sensed it, he turned pale with fright. He hurriedly punched at Qin Jingfeng, who was in the air. At the same time he punched out, he quickly activated the lightning pattern wristband and shot out a thick bolt of lightning that ferociously struck Qin Jingfeng's fist. Qin Jingfeng shouted angrily. His arm was struck by the lightning until his flesh was lacerated and smoke was coming out. It was a tragic sight. Qin Yun was also struck by Qin Jingfeng's fist. He suffered internal injuries and spat out a mouthful of blood. How dare you break the rules? Duan Qian's angry voice was accompanied by a threatening aura. Duan Qian sent out a wave of qi from afar, striking Qin Jingfeng's body and sending him flying out of the Hidden Dragon Martial Field's main gate. Following that, Duan Qian, whose face was filled with anger, slowly landed on the battling platform. He hurriedly took out a shining spirit pill and placed it into Qin Yun's mouth. No one dared to breathe loudly. To be able to send the Tianqin Crown Prince flying, he must be extremely powerful. Many people recognized that this was the general director of the Divine Inscription Palace, Duan Qian. The seriously injured Qin Feng was taken away by Duan Qian. After Qin Jingfeng was sent flying out of the door, he left in a sorry state. He had lost all his face and even lost the Jade Wolf sword. He hated the masked man to the bone. An old man announced loudly, "Tu Long wins, advancing to the 6th rank of the Hidden Dragon ranking." Only when everyone saw Duan Qian leave with Qin Yun did they dare to speak. Qin Jingfeng is not injured. He was only sent flying. After all, he is a genius student of the Tianqian Martial School. Even the general director of the Divine Inscription Palace has some misgivings. Even so, it's still very embarrassing, and his Jade Wolf sword was destroyed. I have to say, the masked man is really powerful. Maybe he's an old blacksmith with amazing hammer skills and an alchemy hammer. Alchemy inscriptions were the rarest among spirit inscriptions. It was said that there were very few inscriptionists who knew alchemy inscriptions. Even Master Wei needed to hire someone to help him inscribe alchemy inscriptions. Duan Qian was most shocked by Qin Yun's alchemy runes. The higher the grade of a spirit rune, the more powerful it was. If the hammer could break the Jade Wolf sword, it meant that the grade of the alchemy pattern was very high. In just a few days, the Hidden Dragon list had changed a lot. From 1st to 6th, they were Xiao Lang, Xiao Yuemei, Meng Fei Ling, Yi Chunlei, Qi Shui and Qin Yun. The happiest person was none other than Xiao Lang. Qin Feng, who originally possessed the Jade Wolf sword, was his greatest threat. But now, he was heavily injured and the Jade Wolf's sword was destroyed. However, right at this moment, a blue-clothed young lady wearing a white mask suddenly announced that she wanted to challenge the number 1 Xiao Lang. Only Xiao Yueme, who is ranked second, has the qualifications to challenge first place. Xiao Yueme has always been wearing a mask, this is known to all. It also made everyone feel very regretful that they could not see this genius girl's beautiful appearance. Xiao Lang is not happy now. He almost forgot that there is still Xiao Yueme. Xiao Yueme is only 14 years old and she is already at the 6th level martial body realm. Furthermore, her martial spirit is extremely mysterious. Everyone was overjoyed. There was another good show to watch. In the suite of the Divine Inscription Palace, Qin Yun sat by the bed and looked at the pitiful Qi Milan. With Yang Shiyu's internal energy healing, her injuries had already stabilized. "Brother Yun, I'm fine." Qi Milan's haggard face revealed a sweet smile. "To be able to see you again is the happiest thing that has happened to me in all these years." Qin Yun smiled and caressed her cute face. He said softly, "I'm very happy to see you too." When Qi Milan heard Qin Yun's low and powerless voice, she immediately frowned and asked worriedly, "Brother Yun, are you injured?" Qin Yun immediately smiled and raised his voice. "I suffered a small injury, it's nothing." He ate the spirit pill that Duan Qian had given him and recovered very quickly. Yang Shiyu, who was standing at the side, said to Qin Yun, "Xiao Yueme is challenging Xiao Lang. Are you going to watch? Both of them will be your opponents." "What's Brother Yun's rank now?" Qi Milan's cute little face was filled with worry because she knew the cruelty of the martial stage. Qin Yun said with a smile, "6th. Little Mei Lian, rest well. I'll go to the Hidden Dragon martial field to take a look. Soon, I'll be able to challenge the 5th-ranked Qi Shui and avenge you." Yang Shiyu sat by the bed and gently stroked Qi Milan's hair. She said, "After a few more rounds of healing, you'll be able to recover. Don't worry." "Teacher, thank you." Qin Yun could only remember this kindness in his heart. "Why are you being so polite with me? Hurry up and go to the Hidden Dragon martial field to take a look," Yang Shiyu said with a gentle smile. The Hidden Dragon martial field was not too far from the Divine Inscription Palace. Qin Yun quickly arrived. The moment he entered, he saw the two people on the main battling platform. They were Xiao Lang, who was riding a snow lion, and Xiao Yueme, who was wearing a mask. "Riding a demonic beast is fine? If the referee doesn't stop it, then there's no problem. Motherf *Ker, having a good family background is so willful. You can even ride a demonic beast. This is too unfair." This Hidden Dragon martial arts competition was originally held for them. They are all students of the Black Level Martial Arts Academy, so the rules are naturally biased towards them. Qin Yun was also secretly surprised because Xiao Lang's Snow Lion was a rank 7 demonic beast. It was extremely powerful. "I admit defeat," Xiao Lang suddenly shouted. Therefore, everyone was looking forward to the martial arts competition. Unexpectedly, the first-ranked Xiao Lang admitted defeat without even fighting. However, no one said that Xiao Lang had stage fright. After all, he was very strong and had a snow lion. However, his opponent was Xiao Yueme, his little sister. If he were to accidentally injure Xiao Yueme during the martial arts competition, not only would the Tian Xiao imperial family pursue him, even his twin sister, Xiao Yuelon, would not let him off. Qin Yun had just arrived when he saw that the match had failed. He quickly returned to the Divine Inscription Palace. He let Duan Qian use an hour to help him recover from his injuries, and then began refining fire and lightning talismans. Sooner or later, he would meet Xiao Lang. His opponent had a snow lion, which was extremely difficult to deal with. Therefore, he had to be fully prepared. Duan Qian came to Qin Yun's talisman crafting room and said, "You have mastered high-grade spirit inscriptions. You can use beast skin to craft talismans and the power will be even stronger. Will it be difficult to use beast skin to craft talismans? Qin Yun had always wanted to give it a try, but he was worried that it would take a lot of time. He had quite a few beast skins. Duan Qian took out a talisman made from beast skin and said with a smile, "If you can use a carving knife to craft talismans, it will be much easier to make beast skin spirit inscriptions." When Qin Yun saw the beast skin talisman, his heart began to stir. Try making one yourself. If you feel that you can't achieve the desired effect, you can make another paper talisman. Chapter 66. The Fury of the Waves. Qin Yun successfully created a beast skin talisman. It took slightly longer than paper talismans, but the power of the beast skin talisman was much stronger than paper talismans. The beast skin needed to be processed before it could be inscribed. This was all done by Yang Shiyu. She used the inner force of the 9th level martial body to process the beast skin. The effect was the best. "Teacher, what is Xiao Yuemei's martial spirit?" Qin Yun asked. "Xiao Yuemei is a great threat. If he could understand her, it would be more or less helpful. The sisters' martial spirits are very mysterious. It's said that even their parents don't know." Yang Shiyu shook her head and said, "If I didn't expose myself, most people wouldn't know about my martial spirit." Qin Yun's vibration martial spirit was also hidden. Others did not know about his martial spirit, so he could catch them off guard in battle. Xiao Yuemei's talent is also very terrifying. Why wasn't she directly chosen by the Black Level Martial Arts Academy? Qin Yun had always been puzzled about this. Yang Shiyu handed Qin Yun a stack of beast skins and sighed softly. She was directly chosen by the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. She needs to agree to the conditions set by the Martial Arts Academy. Perhaps she doesn't want to agree to those conditions. Qin Yun suddenly guessed that Yang Shiyu might have been restricted by these conditions. Otherwise, she would not have come to the Spiritual Martial Academy to be a teacher. He asked in a low voice, "Teacher, did you get scolded by the Tianqian Martial School for exposing your martial spirit in front of everyone last time?" Yang Shiyu stroked her hair flirtatiously and said with a smile, "I was told a few words. I have other matters to attend to when I go back. Focus on crafting talismans and don't ask any more questions." Qin Yun knew that Yang Shiyu was very good to him, so he was very worried that she would face a bad situation. Therefore, the only thing he could do was to work hard to improve his strength as soon as possible. Qin Yun used 2 hours to make 4 talismans. He worked for 20 hours and rested for 4 hours. This continued for 3 days, and he made a total of more than 100 fire and lightning talismans. They were all made from beast skins. Then, he refined a lightning wristband. This thing was very powerful, it could injure one of Qin Zhengfeng's arms. Yang Shiyu picked up the lightning wristband and said with a smile, "I'll help your lightning wristband accumulate internal energy. My internal energy is stronger." When Qin Yun heard this, he smiled and nodded. He also handed over the other thunder-patterned wrist guard. Since there were no restrictions on these things during the competition, it was better to equip as much as possible. Finally, he used the beast skin to make a set of clothes and engraved light patterns on it. The light rune was a type of spirit rune that could heal and detoxify wounds. It was as rare and precious as alchemy runes. It was also very complicated, and he had only recently mastered it. Duan Qian walked in with a solemn expression. "Qin Yun, if there's nothing wrong with your body, it's best if you quickly raise your ranking." Yang Shiyu asked, "What happened?" Duan Qian nodded. Qin Yun's duel with Qin Feng caused a huge commotion, especially at the Tianqin Imperial Palace. In order to fight for their honor, they had to treat the heavily injured Qin Feng at all costs. He should be able to recover very quickly. At that time, he will definitely challenge you. If the heavenly Qin imperial family was willing to pay the price, they would definitely be able to equip Qin Feng with a spirit artifact. The Tian Qin imperial family also had this ability. Duan Qian looked at Yang Shiyu and continued, Qin Jingfeng's connections in the Tianxian martial school are very wide. He will definitely be able to get help from some people in the Tianxian martial school. After Yang Shiyu heard this, she frowned slightly and looked at Qin Yun. She said, Go challenge the 5th-ranked Qi Shui now and take first place as soon as possible. Alright, I'll go now. Qin Yun nodded. The moment Qi Shui received the news that dragon slaying had challenged her, she immediately rushed to the main battling platform. Everyone knew that during the duel between dragon slaying and Qin Feng, he had been severely injured by Qin Jingfeng, who had broken the rules. Even if he rested for a few days, he would definitely not be able to recover. Now, in the Tianqin Imperial City, there was news that Qin Feng had recovered. Therefore, everyone believed that dragon slaying was worried that Qin Feng would take revenge on him, which was why he immediately challenged Qi Shui. On the battling platform, Qi Shui was wearing red tight clothes. Her eyebrows were raised as she arrogantly said, I heard that you are an old blacksmith. You saved that little slut Qi Milan. Did the two of you have some sort of affair? When these words were spoken, everyone burst into laughter. Everyone knew that Qi Milan had been saved by the masked man and brought to the divine inscription palace. She had never come out. When Qi Shui saw the crowd laughing, she also laughed loudly and continued, Maybe she's already been scared crazy by your ugly and old face under your mask. Thanks to you, she was demoted to a commoner. A dignified princess of a country actually had an affair with someone else. She's the same as her slave mother. Qin Yun listened quietly to her words and said in a low and hoarse voice, Your stinky mouth is too stinky. I'm afraid it'll dirty my hands. It was also because Meng Feiling did not have the chance. Otherwise, she would definitely tear Qi Shui's mouth apart. Let the match begin. The referee shouted. Qi Shui was already gritting her teeth in hatred. At the beginning of the match, she released a few ice swords of inner strength towards Qin Yun. Qin Yun let out a muffled roar and stomped on the ground with great force. A deep footprint appeared on the stone brick. However, the stone bricks did not shatter. His inner force could melt stone, causing the hearts of many old martial artists to tremble. Qi explosion technique, wave wave. Qin Yun opened his arms and pushed out with his palms. A wave of energy surged out like a tsunami. The Qi explosion technique of the Xian level martial art was extremely powerful. Qin Yun had cultivated the Qi explosion technique to the small success stage and was now using it with all his might. The power of the explosion was unstoppable. In an instant it completely crushed Qi Shui's ice sword-like inner strength. The shock wave from the explosion howled towards Qi Shui. Qi Shui's body was ruthlessly struck by the shock wave. She let out a blood-curdling scream and flew out, heavily crashing into a large wall of the martial field. It was as if she had been pressed into the wall by an invisible giant palm. Qi Shui's bones were shattered and her body was covered in wounds. She had already fainted. Her entire body was embedded into the wall, so her injuries must be very severe. The people of the Tianqi Empire pulled her down from the high wall and hurriedly healed her. Another top 10 person was carried away. Furthermore, this time, he was in an even more sorry state. He had actually been defeated in a single move. The martial artists in the martial field felt their hair stand on end. If they were to face this move, they might even be torn to shreds. You're lucky. As long as you're alive, I won't let this matter rest. Qin Yun looked at Qi Shui, who was being carried away, and clenched his fists tightly. The anger in his heart had yet to dissipate. That must be a Xian-level martial skill. Look at Dragon Slayer's breathing, it's no longer that stable. It can be seen that the move just now consumed a lot of energy. Xian-level martial skill. Even many great families don't have it. High-grade spirit-level martial skills are already very precious. What is the background of the masked man? In order to avenge Qi Meilian, Qin Yun had used the Qi explosion technique. This was also the strongest martial skill he currently possessed. Dragon Slayer wins and advances to 5th place. He continued to challenge Yi Chernlei, who was ranked 4th. Chapter 67. A battle of great disparity. As everyone expected, Yi Chernlei did not fight this match. In this way, Qin Yun's ranking rose again to 4th place. Immediately after, he went to challenge the 3rd-ranked Meng Feiling. Just as everyone was looking forward to this match, Meng Feiling did not fight and directly admitted defeat. She said that she wanted Dragon Slayer to maintain his best condition so that he could challenge the 2nd-place Xiao Lang. The reason was that if Tu Long was able to defeat Xiao Lang, who was ranked 2nd, his strength was not something that she could contend against. If she couldn't, Tu Long would definitely be injured after his duel with Xiao Lang. It wouldn't be too late for her to return the favor. Furthermore, the 2nd-place Xiao Lang might end up fighting Tu Long to the point where both sides were heavily injured. At that time, it would be much easier for her to challenge him. Many people couldn't help but admire her intelligence. Demoness Meng, that slut. What a good scheme. Xiao Lang, who was in the VIP lounge, was furious. He had thought that Meng Feiling would be able to block the masked man, but he never expected that the masked man would actually fight him to the death. Of course, Meng Feiling knew that the dragon-slaying masked man was Qin Yun, so she would not fight with him. She is very confident in Qin Yun's strength. After Qin Yun advanced to 3rd place, he immediately challenged the 2nd-place Xiao Lang. Now everyone could finally relax. They were all filled with anticipation because this time they were finally going to fight. Qin Yun won 2 consecutive challenges without a fight, and this time he had to fight with Xiao Lang. It was a match worth looking forward to. After Qin Yun issued a challenge to Xiao Lang accepted the challenge within an hour. In the Hidden Dragon martial field, everyone was looking forward to it. They were discussing noisily, as if they were already boiling over. Xiao Lang wore a golden-red battle armor and rode a mighty white snow lion. He slowly walked out from the main gate. Just his aura alone far surpassed Qin Yun's. At the Hidden Dragon martial field, there were the most people at the 6th level of the martial body realm. Most of them felt that if they were to face Xiao Lang's snow lion, they would not have the slightest chance of winning. Not to mention, there was also Xiao Lang, who was at the 6th level martial body realm. Xiao Lang possessed 4 meridians and was a platinum sword martial spirit. His strongest point was that his sword martial spirit could release a very strong sword chi. After fusing with a half-spirit artifact sword, it was equivalent to having a spirit artifact sword. Roar! The snow lion roared and jumped onto the stage with Xiao Lang on its back, causing the stage to tremble slightly. I heard that there are teachers from the Black Level Martial Arts Academy here to watch the battle. They are only hiding in the shadows. Qin Feng lost so miserably. The masked man has attracted the attention of the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. The Hidden Dragon Martial Arts Competition is held for the students who have entered the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. Now that it has been ruined by a masked man, of course they have to come and take a look. To be able to defend the 1st place of the Hidden Dragon list, one would be able to obtain the Profound Heart Grass. The mysterious heart grass could allow a martial artist to cultivate the powerful mysterious Yellow Heart Sutra. It was said to be a mystical mysterious grade medicinal herb, far above the spirit medicine. Rumor had it that the Profound Heart Grass was cultivated by the 3 Profound Level Martial Academies. If it was taken away by an outsider, it would be a huge loss. Xiao Lang sat on the snow-white lion and looked down from above. His face was filled with cold arrogance as he looked down at Qin Yun. He smiled disdainfully and said, You should just stay in third place. You're just asking for trouble by challenging me. If you lose, you'll become Big White's food." His indifferent tone showed that he didn't put anyone in his eyes at all. Everyone thought that this was nothing. After all, he had a rank 7 demonic beast and his own talent was extraordinary. The snow lion roared loudly. Its body emitted a cold aura as it revealed its sharp and terrifying teeth. Its eyes were filled with a brutal light, as if it wanted to intimidate Qin Yun. "Begin." After the referee shouted, Qin Yun took out his forging hammer. Xiao Lang leaped up from the lion's back and stabbed forward with his sword. The snow lion hurriedly ran to the side and opened its mouth wide. It spat out a cold and threatening ice sword at Qin Yun. Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. That ice sword was inner strength. A 7th-level demonic beast was like a 7th-level martial body. It could also release inner strength. Qin Yun was equivalent to fighting 1 against 2. This was not fair at all. However, there was no other way. This was the reality. The ice sword that the snow lion spat out quickly flew over and was blocked by Qin Yun's scorching flames. And the most terrifying thing was that Xiao Lang's sudden stab seemed to have become one with the sword. Qin Yun's throat was locked onto by the tip of the sword. He felt as if his Adam's apple was being held up by the sword qi, making it difficult for him to swallow. In his panic, he suddenly swung his forging hammer and struck the sword from the side, executing the thunder tremor style. Clang! Sparks flew in all directions. However, the sword in Xiao Lang's hand continued to stab forward in a straight line. It was not deflected. At that moment, Qin Yun felt the aura of death. A chill spread throughout his body as he constantly retreated. Xiao Lang's firm sword intent did not waver in the slightest. The tip of his sword locked onto Qin Yun's throat and followed closely behind. Qin Yun instinctively waved his forging hammer. Like a flash of light, it struck Xiao Lang's sword with a flaming tail, producing a crisp bang sound. The sword trembled and a wave of air surged. The sword intent that Xiao Lang had condensed had been dispersed. It was that move, the third style of the forging dragon, the flowing light style. This move focused on speed and could produce a very strong penetrating force. Roar! The snow lion roared as it spat out a ball of white mist from its mouth. It emitted a deep cold air as it covered Qin Yun. Qin Yun was so shocked by Xiao Lang's sword technique that he forgot that there was a 7th-stage snow lion beside him. He could not help but sigh in his heart, "I'm not his match." Facing Xiao Lang's terrifying power, he was truly powerless. Even when he was competing with Qin Feng, he had never felt this powerless. If he was at the 6th level of the martial body realm, he might still have a chance. After being struck by the snow lion, Qin Yun's entire body was ice-cold. He had already been sealed in ice and was sent flying by the impact. Xiao Lang suddenly took out more than 10 fire talismans and threw them at Qin Yun. Boom! Boom! The fire talismans continued to explode as waves of flames enveloped Qin Yun. Complete suppression. The masked man is finally going to lose. Xiao Lang is indeed worthy of being the second prince of Sky Howl. The talisman in his hand should have been given to him by a teacher from the Tianxian martial school. He's willing to throw it out. Just as he finished speaking, Xiao Lang took out another 5 lightning talismans and threw them over. With a crash, a few bolts of lightning surged forward and struck the sea of fire. In an instant, fire and lightning intersected. Everyone felt that if Qin Yun could survive, it would be the greatest victory. Xiao Lang had fought Qin Yun in close combat just now and had also felt that it was extremely dangerous. Therefore, once he seized the opportunity, he threw all the talismans that the teachers of the Tianxian martial school had given him. The lightning and fire disappeared. Qin Yun was still standing there. His entire body was burning with flames. The beast's skin clothes on his body were burning with flames, overflowing with waves of mystical white light. "That's Light inscriptions. His beast skin clothes have light inscriptions engraved on them. They are quickly healing his injuries. An old man cried out in surprise. Light inscriptions were extremely rare, and were only in the hands of a few powers. However, they were now engraved on clothes. To an inscription master, this was simply a reckless waste of heavenly resources. The serious injuries that Qin Yun had suffered earlier were being rapidly healed by the light inscriptions. Are you trying to compete with me in talismans? Qin Yun was infuriated. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, he took out a stack of talismans. They were all made of beast skin and there were dozens of them. When Xiao Lang saw this, his expression changed drastically. He was extremely shocked and hurriedly circulated his inner force to block. Qin Yun scattered the stack of beast skin talismans in his hand. Like shredding paper, it enveloped Xiao Lang and the snow lion. Boom! 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 Wave after wave of flames rose and exploded, like a flaming purgatory. When the teachers of the Tianxian martial school saw this, they were alarmed and anxious. They did not dare to jump onto the stage because Duan Xian was nearby. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.